introductions from commissioners, and we'll go into the agenda from there.
Sure. David Dickinson with ANC 3F01.
Andrea Molad, ANC 3F05.
Shirley Adelstein, ANC 3F02.
Patrick Kopchik, ANC 3F07.
Mary Beth Ray, 3F3. Sally Gresham, ANC 3F04.
And Commissioner Nugent is absent today. In his stead, as Vice Chair, I'll be running tonight's meeting. And the first thing that I'm going to do is just offer 2 amendments to the agenda. We'll put them under other business. We have a grant proposal we got late, and we also want to talk about the red top parking meters at the end of the meeting. Any other additions or adjustments to the agenda? Okay, I am going to move to adopt the agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Commissioner Gresham. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we're ready to get started. Let's start with the treasurer's report.
Okay. So in brief, our expenditures since the June 21st meeting have been $714.28 for staff wages, $40.01 for Verizon Wireless Internet Services, and a check, presuming we approve it today, for $325 for the Iona Senior Services Grant. Our current bank balance is $110,212.
Fantastic. All right, and then I'm going to make a motion to do commissioner announcements. I'll do an unlimited debate on that. Can I get a second? Second from Gresham. All in favor? Aye. Commissioner announcements. Mr. Dickinson.
Okay. I have just a couple quick things. Last Tuesday, the 12th, the University District of Columbia, or UDC, held its quarterly community task force meeting. Mary Beth and Shirley and I were all in attendance, along with several folks from the External Affairs Office and others from UDC. The purpose of the task force is really just to establish an open line of communication with the ANC, and more importantly with the neighborhood or the community. We discussed issues such as the merch swing space that's currently being installed on the west side of the school, some housing issues. I think others here can address that if they'd like to. And then we also talked about how UDC might better inform the community about its community events and potentially even its educational programs. So that went well. We're hoping that that occurs more regularly, and the task force itself will probably meet in the next week or two to discuss sort of how it handles itself administratively and how best to organize itself. So both Shirley and I are on that task force. If you have any questions or suggestions, not to speak for you, but feel free to reach out to either one of us. As you know, or may know, my single-member district includes Hearst Park. We may have some folks here later tonight that are going to talk about the merch swing space, but some of those folks hopefully will also be able to entertain a question or two about Hearst Park. We being the Department of General Services and Department of Parks and Rec, held a planning meeting in mid-June. The meeting minutes from that, there was a lot of discussion, a lot of brainstorming. Those meeting minutes should be posted tomorrow on DGS's website. And I've been informed that the next community planning meeting might take place the middle of August, early September. If there's anybody that has a strong opinion, please feel free to reach out to me in terms of the timing of that meeting. I know there are a lot of summer vacations and things like that, but there will probably also be a series of these community meetings. So if we miss one, I don't think it's critical. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay, I have one announcement. As many of you, I'm sure, know, Pepco/Exelon have recently announced a substantial rate increase that they're bringing up for consideration before the Public Services Commission. It's the biggest rate increase by over a factor of 2 that they've ever asked for. There's a lot of opposition, and there's going to be a community meeting sometime in the September timeframe where we'll bring in people from Pepco, Mark Battle and maybe Donna Cooper will be there, as well as someone from the Office of the People's Council and some other members of the opposition, so we can have an open forum in the community to air all of the issues and have everybody clear about how this impacts them. So keep posted about announcements from the ANC about when this meeting is going to happen. That's it.
I have just a couple of quick announcements. First, I'd like to let folks know that we had a very successful community meeting last week to discuss the influx of food trucks in our community, various vending issues, and the sort of dynamics that are happening. It was a great meeting. We talked about a lot of wonderful ideas for promoting economic development in ways that benefit everyone in the community. And I just want to take this opportunity to thank Shannon Taylor, who's the lead vending specialist at DCRA, and took time out of her evening to share her expertise with us. I also want to remind ANC 3F residents that coming up in early August, they will be doing red line work as part of the Metro Safe Track project. So we may be affected more than we have been so far, so I just want to encourage folks to go to the WMATA website and download their recently updated app to help you through that time. Thank you.
Great. I've got a few announcements tonight and announcements on behalf of Commissioner Nugent. The first is that nominating petitions are out for anyone wishing to run for ANC. The petitions with the usual 25 or more signatures of registered voters in your SMD will be due at the BOE office by the close of business on Wednesday, August 10th. That's in order to get your name on the ballot in the November elections. The second is that Councilwoman Che is hosting a series of high-hazard intersection site visits. She'll be having them in 3 areas in our neighborhood. Wisconsin Avenue and Albemarle Street at 8:30 a.m. on August 17th, at Connecticut Avenue and Porter at 5:30 p.m. on August 17th, and at 39th Street and Van Ness Street at 8:30 a.m. On the 18th. At that time, people will have the ability to offer their comments and their observations to the councilwoman and her staff about these dangerous intersections in our ANC. And the final item I want to flag on my announcements is the Tilden Hall utility work has been delayed. It was originally slated to begin last month. They had some mix-ups with subcontractors, so it's actually been bumped to this month. It's scheduled to start next week and it should last the same 6 weeks that they were estimated when they came in here 2 months ago and explained the plan to us. Now I have some announcements from Commissioner Nugent. First is a parking lot meeting. Teresa Cameron of Van Ness Main Street and Commissioner Nugent had an initial meeting with representatives of the property owners at 4418, 4420, and 4422 Connecticut Avenue, which is Zips and Burger King, to discuss possibilities for improving their joint parking situation. It was a productive meeting, and all parties are willing to explore options that would make traffic flow safer and more efficient by unifying the 2 parking lots into one. We'll continue exploring options, including the possibility of hiring an engineer to draft some other options for a joint parking lot. Merch modernization, 59 of the 90 trailers, 65% are in place, and electrical and plumbing work is underway. The weekly update is available on the table and also at the project website at dc.gov/DCPS-school-modernizations, and find the Merch Elementary School drop-down menu there. And there's a new school design. The DGS design team has submitted their latest designs for merch to the Commission on Fine Arts and the Public Space Committee with view toward approval in September. We'll post links to the plans on our website and we'll consider a resolution at our September meeting. 2 more announcements. One is the community meeting with PEPCO. I think did you handle that one? And then, so I'll skip over that one, and we'll go to the Ward 3 Senior Wellness Center. We're working with colleagues from ANC 3G to address the lack of a senior wellness center in Ward 3. The DC Office on Aging runs centers in every other ward of the city to offer senior-specific classes, services, meals, and field trips, as well as professional services. Ward 3 has the highest concentrations of seniors in the city, but is one of only 2 wards without a full-time wellness center. We are exploring options with existing centers such as Iona and with Councilmember Che's office, and we'll report back in September, possibly with a resolution calling for specific action.
I have 4 announcements, and there are a number of Venice Main Street announcements. Do you mind if I have Teresa make those during the
Community,
forum?
yeah.
So the first announcement, for those of you who drive down Broad Branch Road, you might have noticed a little bit of an improvement. The surface work has been done, although Paul Hoffman of DDOT reports that still no decision has been made as to which option they'll pursue for the major overhaul of Broad Branch. ANC 3F voted on a resolution several years ago that supported option 4, which would include a bike path, a sidewalk, and stormwater mitigation. And DDOT reports that they're going to schedule another community meeting sometime this fall, and I'll certainly put that up on the website and circulate the information when I have it. The second announcement is many of you in the neighborhood have probably seen one or more homeless people in the Van Ness corridor. In the heat and humidity and just terrible conditions living on the street, we're all concerned about those people and have worked closely with several different groups, including Friendship Place, Metropolitan Police, and the mayor's office, to try to connect these people with services. Unfortunately, the people don't always want the services that are offered. And there's a whole protocol that you have to follow depending on whether the person is on private property or in public space. And there's quite a bit of information on that in an article that I wrote for the Forest Hills Connection if anybody's interested. But the short version of the story for tonight is that for the gentleman who is located behind Walgreens, that is private property. And Walgreens is going to work with MPD to have him removed and to dispose of the encampment behind Walgreens. More on Walgreens. They moved out about a year ago. And thanks to Teresa Cameron and Commissioner Adelstein, we've had kind of a SWAT team approach to work with Walgreens to prune their shrubs and pick up the trash and clean up the graffiti. Long story short, they were supposed to call me before their landscaper came out there so I could meet the landscaper and tell them what to prune and how to prune it. And instead, they took a weed whacker to the landscape roses, and it looks better than it did, but that was not the way it was supposed to happen. As Commissioner Gresham knows all too well at the Forest Hills playground. But at any rate, we are working with Walgreens to send somebody out on a weekly basis and to finish mulching their tree boxes. Several of you were probably here last month when Courtney Carlson, or 2 months ago, spoke about the water problems on her property. DDOT had actually acknowledged that her problem was due to the sidewalk or the road being overpaved and the curb had not been raised enough to channel the water. There was also a lack of a storm drain. Anyway, thank you, Mike Matthews, who's sitting in the back, and Mayor Bowser for getting involved. Happily, DDOT has gotten involved and her water problem seems to be improved. That's all.
I have 3 announcements. First, Park Van Ness, the retail tenant update. As you know, we have 2 restaurants coming in, Spalina and Soapstone Market. I'll talk about Spalina first. Actually, you see it up on the PowerPoint right now. They're in the southern retail space of the Park Van Ness building. They started construction yesterday. On July 18th, they anticipate a 16 plus or minus construction phase with a November opening date. We are lucky tonight to have with us the owner, Fabio Trebecki, the Ginsler Design Team's managing principal, Jordan Goldstein, and the owner's project manager, Lynn White. They'll be presenting the restaurant's overall design, both the interiors and the sidewalk cafe area. We welcome them to our hood. Soapstone Market, which is located on the north end of the retail space, continues to do their build out. They're about 60% completed at this point. Have a look. They don't have any brown paper up, so you can see what's going on. They are submitting exterior space drawings to the TOPS Online Public Space Permitting Department in August. Their targeted opening date has moved from late August to early September because of some issues with Pepco, our friendly Pepco people. At our September ANC meeting, Tracy Stander, the owner and her partner and her design team will present their unenclosed sidewalk cafe. On the Forest Hills Playground and Park, the baseball field, DGS construction workers replaced the concrete crumbling entrance, unsafe entrance to the baseball field dugout area with a new handicap concrete ramp. The existing bleachers behind the dugout have been relocated to a better viewing vantage point. Landscaping designs are forthcoming for the entrance area, and hopefully the new standard DPR trash receptacles are on their way. The park and playground areas, DGS and 4 third-party contractors have finally begun the park's overall spring cleanup. We've been asking for this since last February. They started in July. Our community is extremely happy, however, that the trees and shrubs are being pruned, not particularly some of the trees and shrubs, as Mary Beth knows from Walgreens. The grass is being mowed, edged, and blown, and the much-needed overall maintenance tasks are slowly being accomplished. The kids are especially happy, however, that the sand has been brought to the almost empty sandbox. So this is exciting. More cleanup activities and improvements are hopefully forthcoming. Sand will be everywhere. The Friends of Forest Hills Playground will host their second Picnic in the Park concert on Friday, July 29th, not this Friday, but the next Friday, from 5 to 7:30 in the amphitheater. The first one was a huge success. Big Billy Bluegrass Band, which is an awesome bluegrass band that performed last year that everybody loved, is coming back this year. So please come with your blankets, dinner. Armand's Pizza Truck will be there, and join the fun yet again. So on that happy note, we have kind of a sad note. The Tide Pad restaurant had a burglary a couple of weeks ago. An intruder jimmied the rear door open with we think a credit card. At 7 a.m., they got a small amount of cash. No one was hurt because no one was at the restaurant, thank goodness. There was really no damage except for the cash register, but there was a very good video of the intruder. So we are working with MPD, investigating detectives, and our new Lieutenant Hughes. However, as of today, no one has been arrested. Pad Thai does thank everyone for their help during the time. More news on that, I guess, when we hear from Lieutenant Hughes next month.
Excellent.
Or September.
So we'll have Lieutenant Hughes at our next ANC meeting to give us an update on that and have other items in the ANC. With that, let's move into committee reports. If we want to have an update from the Grants Committee.
The Grants Committee reviewed the grant application from Iona Senior Services, which we discussed at our last meeting. That request was for $325 to support the production of a food guide, a guide to food resources in Ward 3. After our last meeting, we had Iona correct a few errors in the application. We also asked Iona to verify that at least 25% of the guides will be distributed in ANC 3F. In addition, we expressed some dismay not with Iona, but with DC Greens for charging $900 for the use of the design, especially since DC Greens has declined to produce a guide for Ward 3, the only ward for which they do not produce this guide, and suggested that in the future Iona explore other options to meet its graphic design needs. With those comments, the Grants Committee does recommend that the Commission approve the request for a grant of $325 to Iona Senior Services, which we will be discussing in a couple of agenda items. That's it.
Do you want to say something about the other,
Cover that in other business. The submission we received this morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll keep it to the end.
okay.
And then we'll refer it to the committee at that time. Just a quick update from the Melvin Hazen, or the Soapstone and Melvin Hazen Park and Trail Committee. This month, we did not hold a monthly meeting. Instead, we're focusing on subcommittee work. Our next meeting will be August 8th, right here at the Forest Hills of DC at 7 p.m. in the conference room, just down the hall. And then a quick update on the Streets and Sidewalks Committee meeting. A number of community members have expressed interest in participating in the Streets and Sidewalks Committee that was formed last month. Anyone else interested in participating can send an email to commissioners@anc3f.com. We plan to convene an initial meeting in August to get organized, begin planning some specific activities. We will post details about that meeting on our events calendar and put it on the website shortly once it's all finalized. And for now, let's move into the open forum, and members of the community can address. Please use the microphone.
All right.
Hi, everybody. It's Teresa with Van Ness Main Street, and we've got a few announcements. And I have two of my board members here, so if I leave something off, just please correct me. It's been really busy. We have been working really hard in Van Ness. I hope people have noticed the streetscaping. We've been working with our cleaning team, and so you'll see the weeds are gone, and we're mulching up and down the avenue, and we're really tickled about it. And they've worked very hard to accommodate us, and I want to thank Mary Beth Brady for all her help in helping organize that. We had our first performance at the farmers market, and we had a chef there who did a demonstration. It's very successful. If you haven't checked out the farmers market recently, it's really fun. It's becoming a real community gathering space. The farmers are loving it this summer. We have a jazz quartet that's performing this Saturday, unless they die of heat. But we'll be doing performances every other weekend at the farmers market. And I posted on our Facebook page, which is Facebook.com/Van Ness Main Street. And that will continue through November. We've had our first business-to-business breakfast, and we've had over 15 different businesses come. We had a great tour of Park Van Ness, which was just lovely.
Speak up, because I can't hear a word you're saying.
Sorry.
I don't think your amplifier is turned.
No, so that microphone is just for our online audience, so we'll speak up.
So we had our, we also had our jazz at Van Ness, and that was at Bread First. We had a wonderful jazz barbershop quartet, not quartet, but group that sang.
Sorry.
Oh, is it this one? Oh, good.
But it's not going to reach.
Can you hear me better?
Yes.
Is that better? Okay, good. Sorry, I don't want to scream, but this is better. So we had our second Jazz at BN, which was at Bread First, and our next one's going to be in August at Laliguras. So we'll be posting that on our Facebook page, and I'll talk more about it at the next meeting of the ANC. We also have been working on a large event for Van Ness called Art All Night. We're part of 8 different areas in the district that host this. It's a huge event patterned after Nuit Blanc, which happens in Paris. And this is the first time that we'll be doing it in Van Ness. And we have 6 different locations. We'll be working with individual artists from the neighborhood. We'll be doing a lot of visual arts work. We'll have dance, theater, spoken word. We're working with Politics and Prose to do spoken word. So it's going to be all over Van Ness. At the next meeting, I'm going to have a volunteer sheet because we'd like to have as many people as possible volunteer for shifts. We're expecting between 2,000 to 4,000 people in Van Ness, so it'll be a really fun, big event. And it occurs along the metro line at a bunch of different metro stops. So we're just one of the stops. And so we'll be going from about 7 to 11:30 at night. Some of the communities will go till 3 a.m., but we're going to just keep it simple this year for the first time. We also, September 24th, thank you for asking. We also have been working on the corner of Albemarle and Connecticut Avenue, and I want to thank Sally Gresham for all the work. We are hoping that we can see some visible changes to that corner for our design work, and that should be completed by the end of September. We also are doing a real estate study as for Van Ness. We can see what's available, what our rental rates are throughout. We also have hired a restaurant consultant who will be working with our restaurants and helping them just with a lot of different questions that they've had for me that I can't necessarily help them with. And they want to be really prepared for all of our new residents coming in, as well as just a different market. And finally, we also have a grant program for our small businesses at the moment, and that's allowing them to do some permanent work on their businesses, painting, new light fixtures, different kinds of windows that they'd like, anything that's permanent, and that deadline is closing the end of the month. And we're really excited because it's a way that we really can help our small businesses grow in Van Ness. And we have a logo now, so at the next meeting we'll be showing you our logo and our website. So we're moving along. I have an office, as you know, at the last meeting I mentioned I'm right next to Acacia Bistro, but again, I want to thank the University of the District of Columbia for giving me my window space. It's great, and if you're walking by ever, just knock on the window and say hello. I'm either there or on the street, so thank you very much. And I want to thank Commissioner Elston for doing the food truck meeting. It was fantastic, and we're really excited about moving forward. Thanks.
Great. Do we have any other commissioner announcements or community announcements? Come on. Oh, if you would like to go first. How polite.
Use the
We'll move it
mic,
to the other.
exactly.
After they're over, we'll move it to the other outlet.
Carol, okay, is it on? Now you have to turn it, there you go. No. There? Yes. Hi, good evening, thank you very much. My name is Mary Lord. I'm the at-large member on the State Board of Education, and I'm here just to briefly update the community on the work we've been doing. As you probably know, No Child Left Behind, the federal law that made us test every kid in grades 3 through 8 in reading and math, and again in 10th grade, is behind us. And the District of Columbia State Board of Education, like other states, is tasked with developing a new accountability plan to hold our schools accountable. We've been holding community forums, and we have a survey online because we really want to tap a broad array of people's views. We want students and teachers and parents, but we also want employers, ANC commissioners, civic associations, to talk about what does every student's success look like, what do we need to do, how do we measure them so that we guarantee our students have a well-rounded, balanced education that includes the art, the music, the experiences, the vocational education. So I will follow up with an email to the commission, but it's the survey can be accessed on sboe.dc.gov/ESSA. That's Every Student Succeeds Act. It's available in Spanish and Amharic as well as English. And we hope everyone will take just a few moments to tell us what we should be working for on behalf of kids. And with that said, I can tell you that the progress we've made so far is absolutely irrefutable. Our kids are doing better. We have in rising enrollment, so we're on the right track. But this is a kind of moonshot opportunity, and I don't want to miss the opportunity to truly accelerate the progress for all kids. So thank you very much.
Just a quick question. Mm-hmm. So when you said we've left No Child Left behind us, and we're moving forward to something else, can you explain what the current testing is then within DC Public Schools? Are we still doing park testing, and is your effort to look at that as well?
Right, so we,
Excuse me, sorry, if you stand up in front of the microphone that's behind you, then the people online, so if you can manage, so I apologize.
let the record show, I'm
Thanks.
bi-coastal. Sure, so the No Child Left Behind provision of testing in reading and math, and then once in middle, elementary, and high school in science has not gone away. The State Board of Education, along with, well, it was a number of other states, joined the PARC consortium. We agreed to go with the PARC consortium, and our level of proficiency was set according to a broad consensus of experts on what college and career-ready literacy levels look like. So that has not changed, even in the new regime, but the new federal law requires something broader. So we can and must continue to do the minimum and broadcast and tease out the test scores according to the various groups of students, low income, Spanish speaking, English language learners, special ed. But the law now requires us to have additional measures. Social emotional measures, for example, are perfectly okay. We could measure graduation rates, advanced placement, test passage. So there's a host of other things we can either add or think about adding as we roll this out. And then the other thing is where the PARC assessment might be augmented. So for example, some states and the federal government now allows us to count SAT or advanced placement as the high school part of it. So we don't necessarily have to use the PARC scores. That said, there are a number of colleges who are using the PARC assessments as college placement. So if you place well and proficient in that, you don't have to take that college remedial math. And so that's sort of the incentive for students. But so we have some sort of guardrails. We have to still test, but that's a once-a-year annual test. It's not every day. It's not 6 weeks of testing and testing some more.
Do you know, I guess the PARC test is typically administered late April, early May, something like that, and then the parents get all in a tizzy, and then we get the PARC results in October. Do you know why that is, and whether that'll ever be cured?
I'd like to blame it on technical difficulties, and my Ward 3 colleague Ruth Wattenberg is all over this, and we are working with the state superintendent's office to get an answer, but apparently it seems to be that protocols weren't followed, or there was some ambiguity about who gets tested and why, and so for example, some students who really needed to be in the geometry test were given a math test that was 2 years out of date for them. They were in accelerated math. We did vote to hold schools and teachers harmless while we work out the kinks, and so my guess is that these will just be 2 years of kind of baseline assessments, and then maybe in the year 2016, 2017, we'll start to move forward. But then again, we're going to have the whole new accountability plan, so it's not quite pressing reboot, but there's very little way we can compare then and now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Turn it on.
Hey everybody, I don't think I need a microphone. I think you can hear me loud enough. Yeah, I'm making this super awkward. So Mike Matthews, the Ward 3 liaison with Mayor Bowser's office, and just 3 updates very quickly here. One is small business outreach. I met with Ms. Cameron last week to mention that last year we did this as well at the mayor's office. We went to small businesses that were sprouting up in the area to discuss what government services were available to them and to listen to what they felt like we needed to be doing in the community. So we're going to partner on that. I'm really going to follow her lead because I think you guys know how great she is with that at the Main Street. So that'll be taken off next month. As well, infrastructure, that was actually all Commissioner Ray with the DDOT issues. We're really jumping into those here this month and next month, and you will start to see some improvements on the surfaces. I know we do have a few issues here and there we have to take care of, And number 3, I told you I was going to be brief here, is trees. So the DDOT Urban Forestry Administration has a bunch of saplings, I guess you would call them. I'm not a forester myself, but young trees that are under 2 years of age. They're everywhere with this heat. It's a very critical month, this and next month, to get some water on them. If anybody has a little extra water, they have a little time, and you see you want to kind of keep the canopy, we need to get to 40% here coming up. And the way to do that is to keep these young trees very well watered. So please reach out, let me know. It's kind of a little personal project of mine as well. And that is it right now. I know we do have some red top issues. We have several other issues that are actually on the agenda, so I'll get to those as they come.
So I have a question
Yeah, I
on
think-
the watering the trees.
Yeah.
Because we have a bunch of new trees in the Forest Hills Park. How do we
So-
get those watered?
In the park.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So that is a different game that I have to really talk with the Urban Forestry Administration about.
Please, because DGS is not taking care of that.
Okay.
So we really need, I know that they're talking about having UFA take over the park trees also, not just the street trees.
So, yes.
Is that coming anytime soon?
I don't know the timeline on that, and as always, you're a step or two ahead of me here. I was trying to get ahead of this one, but no, couldn't do it. So that is in a little area right now where I'm not exactly sure. What I was really speaking to is the street trees, or
Right.
the street trees, the
Right.
ones that are out there that we're adding to the canopy that you see. They're 5 months old, they're beautiful. It took a little bit of money to get them in the ground. We need to get these things kind of filled up, and it does take. It is about 10 gallons a week is what we would like to have on these trees. I realize that may be a little bit much to ask, but if anybody's up for that, I do it myself quite a bit. I just don't have all that capacity to do the whole ANC. So let me get back to you on that. I spoke with her today on it, but not about the parks. So
Let me just try to lend a word of support for that. The Casey Trees actually has a great YouTube video on how to water trees and how to use watering bags, and in fact it's 25 gallons a week as opposed to 10 is what they recommend. So even though there have been a lot of thunderstorms and things of that nature, it's about an inch and a half of water per week in precipitation, and we're not getting that. You may think we are, and you may think that the lawns are turning green or not, but we need a lot more water. So I thank you for coming out and advocating for that, and I will join Sally and say that there also is a bunch of new trees planted at Hearst Elementary, compliments of Casey and DGS. Every Sunday morning at 8:30, come out and talk about Hearst Park and get your hands dirty and water the trees with me.
Well, one final thing here, and I promise I'll sit down in a minute, is maybe we could talk off to the side about doing an outreach effort in your ANC here, because Casey Trees did for a long time water everything themselves. Things have changed with the Urban Forestry Administration. I don't want to get too much further into it, but not everybody's able, and 25, I thought it was 10, I was giving us a break here. But, we've got
10 is a good start.
Yeah, we're going to start somewhere. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Do we have any more community announcements? All right, we're going to move to our next agenda item. It's a letter in support of a settlement agreement exception for politics and pros. Why don't you tee this up in just a second, Commissioner? What do you, about 5-10 minutes, or? Okay, I'm gonna make a motion to open debate on this letter of support. We're gonna limit debate to 10 minutes, including questions for it. Do I have a second? Second. Or do you want to tee it up for him? Sorry about that.
Okay, so, Jason Facci from the law firm Goldblatt Martin Posen LLP that represents Politics and Pros is here to talk to us about, they're asking us for support for an exception to their settlement agreement to stay open one night for one event later than normal hours. I can let Jason explain what the exciting event that's going on that they're asking for, but,
Absolutely.
so that's all. Jason Facci.
All right, well, good evening, commissioners and members of the public. Thank you for this opportunity to speak today. My name is Jason Facci. I'm an attorney with the law firm Goldblatt Martin Posen here in DC, and we represent Politics and Pros Bookstore. The reason why I'm here tonight is because Politics and Pros is seeking a one-time extension of their business hours to stay open until 12:30 a.m. On on July 30th, next Saturday, to commemorate the midnight release of the latest Harry Potter work. This event is going to include trivia, costume contests, as well as crafts, and Politics and Pros will be providing beer, wine, as well as food from their PNP Coffee House menu. And this will be until 12:30 a.m., just for this one night only. We've also spoken to a couple of the businesses in the area, and Comet Ping Pong, as well as Bucks Fishing and Camping, enthusiastically support this one-time exception to their business hours. So accordingly, we would ask for a letter in support from the ANC to support this one-time extension. Thank you. And I open myself up to questions.
Great. We're going to start with Commissioner questions first, and then we'll throw anything to the crowd.
Should I read the text of the letter that we're proposing into the record before we have discussion?
Let's do that before we vote on it.
Okay, good.
I just have a couple of questions. So it sounds like you already have a beer and wine license
Yes.
for the cafe, and you're just using that license, I guess, and getting an exception. I'm sorry, I haven't been following this closely, but you have an existing license. You're just looking for kind of a variance on that for one night.
Exactly, and
Yeah.
what we need to do is go through ABRA, the Alcohol Beverage
Right.
Board, ABC Board, and get their approval as well in order to just continue to serve beer and wine until.
Will any of that be out on the sidewalk or the street?
No, it will all be contained within the premises, the upstairs and downstairs. There will also be 8 staff present to provide security for all the guests. And I'd also like to mention there will be no music or any loud music or excessive noise coming from the establishment as well.
Great, good luck.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
I hope a lot of people are coming from the community, but how are you going to handle the parking situation?
I believe parking will be on the street. I'm not really sure in terms of parking, to be honest. But certainly everyone from the community is invited. I encourage everyone here to attend as well. But I'm not sure.
Parking lot sometimes gets a little crazy back
Right,
there.
I
So-
understand that. Well, I would encourage everybody to Uber, since there will be
Walk.
beer and wine.
Uber.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, if that late at night, maybe the parking lot won't be as crowded.
Yeah, what's still open then?
10
Comment?
to 2:30.
10 to
Yeah,
So-
Bucks and
com. Okay.
CVS.
Okay. I'm going to open up to any questions from the community. Are there any? Okay. Now, do you want to make a motion to do the letter? And
Yeah.
You can read it.
So here's the text of the letter that we're talking about sending to ABRA. Dear Mr. Anderson, the chair of the ABRA Control Board, on behalf of the Advisory Neighborhood Commission, ANC 3F, we write this letter in support of Politics and Pros's ABRA application for a one-day substantial change to their ABC license and settlement agreement. We recognize that on July 30th, 2016, for one night only, PNP wishes to extend its business hours beyond that which originally agreed upon in the settlement agreement, and sell food, beer, and wine until 12:30 a.m. to commemorate the midnight release of the latest Harry Potter literary work. ANC 3F fully supports PNP's application for this one-day substantial change without reservation. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact us. So I make a motion that we approve the letter and give it to Politics and Pros to include with their application.
Excellent. Do I have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Dickinson? All in favor? All opposed? It passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. You all sign it? All right.
Yeah, he'll
So-
sign
Do we
it,
get a free
Jason.
copy?
I can find out.
Let the record show that was Commissioner Gresham who posed that question. Oh,
Copies of the
Hey,
vote.
I read Harry Potter, I like it.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks for coming in.
do I have a representative from the grant application for Iona Senior Services here to speak about that? Do we need them to speak it, or we're just going to make a motion to support it?
Diana's going to come.
Okay. I'm going to skip over it for the time being. We'll table that and come back to it. Do I have some members? I know I see one from the Office of Planning. Are you here to talk about the crossing the street? Yeah. Awesome.
There he is.
How much time do you think you need?
15 minutes, we can do a little faster.
15 minutes? Let's do, we'll do 15 minutes of you talking, and then we'll, in total? Okay, all right, we're gonna do 15 minutes in total. I'm gonna make a motion to discuss the Office of Planning's Crossing the Street Initiative and limit debate to 15 minutes. Do I have a second? Second. Commissioner Adelstein, all in favor? Aye, there we go.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, commissioners. I'm Ryan Hand. I'm the Ward 3 Neighborhood Planner at the DC Office of Planning. The reason I'm here tonight is to talk about a creative placemaking program that we are launching here in Van Ness. This will be one of 15 neighborhoods we'll be launching this initiative in. It is called Crossing the Street. The idea is to use creative, temporary activation of the public space to bring people with different backgrounds together and to start building identity for the neighborhood. One of the real things we're tying these into are our small area planning work. In Van Ness, that was Van Ness Commercial District Action Strategy, and we're targeting the community and identity building recommendations out of that strategy. The creative placemaking initiative itself has two big components. The first is the concept development phase, which started in May and will end at the end of this month. The second phase will be the implementation phase, which runs through the beginning of August to the end of November. We're targeting an event in this neighborhood in early October that will build off the energy generated by Art All Night that you heard about earlier. And we'll be having a number of build-up and kind of wind-down elements. And as we get going here in August, we'll be reaching out to the community as well as people at the University of District of Columbia and other stakeholders to bring in participants to this event, bring in people who want to support, engage, and connect. So without going a whole lot further, I'm going to introduce Tendani here. Tendani is a curator the Office of Planning is brought in to help bring creative people into this process because bureaucrats aren't the best creative people, and that's why we brought in Tendani. Tendani's been taking the lead to develop the concept, and he'll walk you through a little bit more about what's going to happen.
Good evening, everyone. Do I need this microphone?
This microphone goes to the left.
That goes to the, yes.
Indeed. So I'm Tendani, and I'm a former DC Arts Commissioner, and I learned a lot during that time about how arts and culture, helps enhance the fabric of the city. And working with the Office of Planning over the years, haven't necessarily tackled a project that's this interesting. But creative placemaking is a trend that's being supported by a lot of foundations. So we're happy to have that those resources come here. Just a little bit about our background. I'm the founder of the Water Arts and Culture Council. I'm an interdisciplinary artist. And I've produced a number of events, two of those being Art All Night. Anyone familiar with Art All Night?
They will be, yes.
Okay. Oh, hey, how are you? Good to see you. So we are basically an organization, Water Arts and Culture Council, that produces cultural events that creates pathways to workforce and business entrepreneurship through creative economy. And so with this project, we've been charged to focus on Van Ness to create a project that's called a social intervention. Van Ness is a unique community in which it has a very affluent class of people, and then it has UDC, which serves a less affluent population. You have an international community that's trying to mesh. You have all these different social elements, and so art is being here formed as a platform to connect different intersections that may be disconnected, and that gives you the concept of crossing the street. And so we've identified a couple of sites along the corridor that would maybe serve for a light projection, a graphic projection on buildings that would include maybe words, symbols, maybe motion, videos, these different things. We also talked about some maybe temporary art installations. We talked about workshops with the community. There is a elementary school that is on the corridor, and then you have some college presence, and then you have people who have been here for a while. And so this project would be very intergenerational. It would be very interactive. It would be very fun. It would be very exciting. And now that Van Ness has a Main Street program, we think it should be a catalyst to help spawn something more. I don't know if it's related to creative economy or some type of economic development, but this could be a platform to engage stakeholders and people that may have those interests as well along the corridor. So that is a brief overview of what we're charged to do here. We have some visuals that we can get everybody, and I know Ryan and I, we can definitely make sure people get the email, if you would like to see the PowerPoint, etc. But at this point, does anybody have any questions or comments, or do you have any creatives?
We're going to start with the commissioners first, and then we'll kick it to anyone in the audience. So, Commissioner.
Well, I just want to welcome Tadani back to the ANC, and I really want to thank Ryan Hand, because Ryan knows Van Ness better than we know ourselves in some ways. But it is all thanks to Ryan's vision and hard work that we have this grant. Ryan worked with us absolutely down in the trenches from the beginning with the Van Ness Vision Committee, always enthusiastic, always eager to listen to what we had to say, and always eager to bring the resources that that he's able to bear. And this is just such a gift for our community. And as Tadani says, I think it's going to be not only a beautiful, exciting, hip thing. Heaven forbid that we associate hip and Van Ness in the same sentence. But I think it does really also have a great possibility for inspiring economic development. So thank you both.
Thank you very much. And I want to reiterate, we're working heavily with Teresa at the Main Street, with the ANCs, incredible partners in this community. And frankly, I'm incredibly excited. I think we're going to really show the city what Van Ness is.
Questions from the audience? All right.
Time frame.
So I'm going to answer the commissioner's question. I'll jump right back to you. So the time frame, the event itself, we're targeting early October as a follow-on to Art All Night. It'll be a separate and distinct event, but it'll work to build on momentum from Art All Night. So that's part of the time frame. In August and in September, you should expect to hear from us. We want to hear from you. We want you to be involved. We want you to be excited, and you'll hear a lot from us. Sir?
How do you make this more than a one-shot?
So that's a really great question. So this is intended to be an exclamation point. And that's what we're doing here, is we're putting on a demonstration. Part of what happens from here is the Main Street, the ANC, the business community, the residents start working together to see what you like, build on it, keep the energy going. The city does make ongoing investments in arts and culture, and there are opportunities through those investments, like Art All Night, that happens on an annual basis, to build and continue this momentum. And there's a number of opportunities we fleshed some of those out in the commercial district action strategy for Van Ness. Those include building out the farmers markets. We've heard about the Jazz Trio. That's exactly what we're talking about. So you can take these things, they happen at different times, they happen with different partners, and this is just the starting point. This is far from the end.
And to add on to that, we can view it also as portfolio development for the corridor, because there's some interest in doing some projects that are similar but more permanent. We don't have the resources to pull off some of the bigger ideas, but at least this can help build the portfolio for the community use in the future to attract new resources for bigger and better projects.
So Tandani's handed out a flyer. I want to give you everyone my email. Most people know how to reach me. I am ryan.hand@dc.gov. I'll leave some cards on the table out back if you'd like them. Reach out to me if you have any questions. I'm always happy to talk.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Great. Do we have someone from Iona here?
We can do it without them.
Okay, I'm going to do that in other business too, and then we'll just move to the very end. So we're going to move on to our presentation on rent control issues. Do I have that speaker here?
We do. They're both here.
Okay. Hi. I'm going to let you tee it up for them. We do need about 15 minutes? 15 minutes, maybe 5 minutes of questions, or 15 minutes for...
I think we can probably do 15 minutes.
We can do it in 15 minutes? Okay.
Introduce and then we'll start the clock.
All right, I'm going to make a motion to present on rent control issues and limit debate to 15 minutes. A second from Commissioner Ottelstein. All in favor?
Okay. Just to briefly introduce the issue, we are here tonight to talk about a specific rent control issue that we've observed in my district. It's come to our attention that it's happening elsewhere in ANC 3F, elsewhere in Ward 3, and elsewhere in the District of Columbia. Rent control is really, really important to a lot of our residents who rely on it to be able to afford housing at a time when housing costs are among the highest in the nation. So this is especially important for our elderly elderly and disabled residents, but also for others. And so I would like to thank and welcome two people who are with us today. Joel Cohn, who is the Legislative Director for the DC Office of the Tenant Advocate, and also Harry Garral, who is the President of the Van Ness South Tenants Association, to provide us with an introductory overview of some abuses of rent control related to concession practices. And I just want to say that this is meant as an introduction to the issue. We do plan to continue talking about it and to take action on it. So with that, Joel, thank you so much. I'll let you introduce the issue.
It's complicated enough. I'm going to work from a few notes here, if that's okay. But first of all, I want to say thank you to Shirley and ANC for and also I think that assisting me tonight will be Harry Garral, who is the president of the Tenant Association at Van Ness South. And Shirley and Harry and Van Ness South tenants have been absolute leaders in terms of this issue of rent concessions, which really is, our office believes, an attack on rent control. I am Joel Cohn, I'm the Legislative Director from the Office of the Tenant Advocate, and here speaking on behalf of our Chief Tenant Advocate, Johanna Shuik. Just a quick word about our office. We were established in 2006, and our mission is to serve as an independent voice for tenants within the DC government, within the executive branch. We provide legal advice and representation in certain instances. We do policy advocacy, legislatively and rulemaking, and judicial advocacy as well. And we also provide education and outreach about tenant rights to district residents, to renters in the district. So what I'd like to do is talk a little bit about the history of this issue, which time is limited, so I'll try to keep that very brief. But one of the foremost issues, I'll say, one of the foremost laws that protects the affordability of rental housing for district renters is rent control. From 1975 until 2006, rent control was based on a rent ceiling system. And the rent ceiling system basically entailed two numbers being relevant to tenants and what the rent charged for a rental unit was. There was the rent charge that tenants actually paid per month. And then there was a second number called the rent ceiling that would be reported to the rent administrator's office and provided a basis for rent increases. Basically what happened over a period of time was that the discrepancy between the rent charge and the rent ceiling for many units throughout the district became extremely large. And because the rent increase was pegged to an adjustment in the rent ceiling, rent control lost all meaning, basically. It became a meaningless system because the landlord had the authority to increase the rent by virtually a limitless amount. So in 2006, when I was working for then Councilmember Jim Graham, he decided he was going to reform the rent control law and restore it to its original intent, which was to make it a system to ensure affordability for tenants. He did that by abolishing rent ceilings and by forcing landlords to basically increase the rent based on a single number, not two different numbers, but just the rent charged amount. So that it would be provided basically for affordability, for predictability in terms of the rent increase for tenants. So I know I'm mishmashing a lot of concepts in here, so I hope if there's questions about any of this, so slow me down and ask some questions as well. Rent ceilings were abolished in 2006, and what's happened since then is that the industry has adapted to that and has said, well, okay, so we have to deal with the rent charged amount in terms of the amount that we report to the rent administrator. But there's nothing in the law that speaks to the issue of rent concessions. So it's kind of rent ceilings in reverse. What's happening is that the landlord is luring the tenants in with a low amount of rent being advertised. And I'm going to turn to Harry for his particular case example. But in a nutshell, the rent amount that's being, the rent charge amount that's being reported to the rent administrator is far in excess of the concession amount that's being offered to the tenant upon moving in. And it's leading to a system of de facto rent ceilings. So they've been abolished as a matter of law, but as a matter of practice, the rent ceiling is basically re-emerging, leading to unaffordability, leading to, in the second year when there's an increase in the rent, an unpredictable amount because the amount that will be charged goes back up to what's been reported to the rent administrator. So I think, is that, any questions about that so far? And if not, maybe Harry can step up and give his particular example.
I wasn't sure how much time I'd have, so I wrote testimony, so to speak, just so you have it all in one place.
Okay.
So this may be helpful to you, and I'm going to just keep a copy. I'll try not to just read everything all the way through. And this is a form that will be important in my explanation. So my name is Harry Gorell. I'm the president of NS South Tenants Association. It's a building at 3003 Van Ness. We have about 600 apartments in our building, and it's a rent-controlled building. It's actually rent-stabilized, as Joel had discussed. In rent-controlled buildings, the maximum annual increase is 2% plus consumer price index locally. So this year, the CPI is 0, so the maximum increase is 2%. But as a president of the Tenants Association, I've had many residents come to me with increases of requested increases demanded by equity of 10, 20, 30, 40, almost 50% above what they're paying. So the question is how they do this. And this is what Joel was talking about, is a de facto rent ceiling. So if you are a new tenant, this is the clearest example, and you see advertised on the website for equity, an apartment, one-bedroom apartment for $1,800. You may have looked for a long time to find that apartment. So when you finally find the one you want, the leasing agent takes you to the office and says, okay, it's not a lease. You look at the lease, looks great, ready to sign, and then you notice that in the box that says rent, small print, it says $2,800. So what do? You want that apartment, everything was good. You say, wait a minute, it says $2,800. And they say, well, here it says you're getting a concession, which is a word that's not in the rent control law. It's a word that's actually invented for this use. Concession in this case is like a discount. You're saying, we're giving you $1,000 off the rent. Now, I would contest that that is a fictional amount because, in fact, rents in the area are not $2,800 for a one bedroom. It's not they're giving you a rate to be competitive or to get your business. It's just they want to put that $2,800 in the lease because they want to do, as Joel said, maintain a rent ceiling, a de facto rent ceiling. So a person, like most people, we're inexperienced, we're not lawyers, we don't know fine print, we don't have half of this. We look at the person looks at the $2,800 and says, you mean I only have to pay $1,800? What happens next year? They say, oh, this is just a formality. This is just for our internal purposes. And there are a number of lines that are used that people have told me about, but basically they pressure them a little bit and say, don't worry about it. Next year you'll get the same deal. So it's going to be essentially $1,800. Person signs a lease, everything is good, pays $1,800. 9 months later, they get a letter from equity with the form attached that I've given you. In fact, I have some pass out these forms. This form is from the Rental Accommodations Division of the DC government. It's an official form. The form, if you notice the heading at the top, it lists both the Rental Accommodations Division and it lists Smith Property Holdings, which is a division of Equity Residential. Equity Residential, in fact, is a $26 billion company that's headquartered in Chicago, and Smith Property Holdings is a subsidiary that they use to limit their liability. First of all, it's confusing. You've got two institutions listed on this form. This form that you're looking at specifically is a person in our building who's a senior citizen, or over 62. The law allows maximum increase for people over 62 of just the CPI, right?
Just the CPI.
Yeah, just the CPI, which this year is 0. So this person should have had an increase of nothing, right? So if you look at this form, and I've put asterisks and caps here so that you can differentiate what's actually in the form and what I've put in. I've taken out the person's name and put in senior citizen. The rent this person paid last year was $2,000. Actually paid, cut a check, or had a debit from his or her account for $2,000. Equity has listed this rent at $2,742, $742 higher. The next year, this person should have had a rent increase. Because it was last year, the CPI was 1.5%. It should have been a 1.5% increase. So if it had been a 1.5% increase, it would have been $30. So it's 2,000 times 1.5 is $30. In this case, Equity assessed the 1.5% on the 2742 and demands a new rent of 2783. So this amount that's now demanded is $783 higher than what's allowed in rent control. In fact, if you do the math on it, it's 39% higher. It's a 39% increase, where the maximum increase should have been 1.5%. So this is a problem. This happens all the time. So it happens with people who are seniors, people who are not. I've had a lot of people come to me as the head of the Tenants Association, very, very upset about this. Some people will look at this form, and in fact I should say I blame the Rental Accommodations Division in part for this, because they're allowing this form, which doesn't say your maximum rent charge, it says the amount that's your increase will be is X amount. In fact, the law says the maximum amount, so that's misleading. But the fact is that this form is then used by Equity, sent out to the tenant, who looks at this and says that must be the increase because that's what the Rental Accommodations Division is telling me. So some people pay this. So I've heard situations where people have paid rents of increases of $500 or $600. I'll wrap up. So as the Tenants Association, we often help people negotiate their rents down to lower levels. Often it's higher than the legal limit. Sometimes it is what the legal limit is. But always Equity forces the tenant to sign a new lease. Signing a new lease is not required under rent control, so they're forcing the tenant to do something under duress that they're not compelled to do under rent control in order to put back on this form that they submit again to the Rental Accommodations Division the following year this much higher number, 2783, which is a fictional number that's made up, sent to the city, and next year this same tenant is going to get another notice. It requests a rent increase based on 2780. So that's what happens. This is very widespread. I should say that for a point of clarification, this happened to me as it's happened to everyone else. I refused to pay the increase. Equity still did. So unlike most people are scared and they give up, in this case, the Office of the Tenant Advocate, Joel, Johanna, Dennis are helping me fight back on this because it's very difficult for most individuals to do it. So I'm willing to take it on, and I think it's something that's very important. It needs your attention, and I appreciate that. And I hope I can work with you together in some way, as I have been with Shirley, who's really been very fantastic on this issue.
Thank
so
you.
Thank you.
Can I say thank you very much, Harry. That was a great explanation. And I just want to say that this is a gray area of the law in the sense that the Rental Housing Act does not use the word or prohibit rent concessions. So you have to, it's a question in terms of a litigation like Harry's of connecting dots to why this is illegal. And I think Harry indicated very clearly that it's a violation of the basis, the rent charge basis for the tenant's rent increase, which has to be based on that single number now that rent ceilings have been abolished. But it's also, as Harry indicated, I believe also a question of false reporting, which is a penalty under the Act. It's also a question of, let's see, false reporting, rent ceiling, abolition, the basis for the rent charge, and then also interference with the right of any tenant, whether under rent control or not, to act the initial lease term to be month-to-month tenant as well. So, but because this is a judicial argument that has to be made, the rent administrator hasn't ruled on it. He basically relied on the Office of Administrative Hearings and then the Office of Administrative Hearings thus far in the few decisions that have been rendered are saying, well, we sort of see some issues here, but the Rental Housing Commission, which is the administrative level of appeal, they're sort of punting to that level. Okay. So that's why our office believes that this does need to be litigated, that the argument needs to be made in full in court. But working with Shirley and others, we're also working with the council for legislative clarifications.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just add one thing very quickly?
Well, one second. It has to be quick. All right.
Equity owns a lot of buildings in DC. It's not just one building. There are other landlords that do this. This may be widespread.
Okay. Unfortunately, we don't have time for questions on this tape, but we will be having a community meeting, I think, in the future on this, or what's the plan here?
Yeah, so, I mean, our goal tonight was to introduce the issue to people. We would like to have a community meeting soon, focused specifically on this. If you're interested in this topic, please feel free to contact me. We would like to see Councilmember Shea take action on this. She has expressed some interest. But eventually we'd like to weigh in as an ANC as well.
Okay. And once the meeting date gets finalized, we'll put it up on the website and add it to our calendar.
I know there are no questions, but given the timing of that meeting, is that a critical issue? I mean, it sounds like you're in litigation and you're also looking for a legislative fix. And I assume you're coming to the ANC to opine on the legislative side as opposed to trying to provide any opinion on the litigation.
For Shirley's invitation side, I would sort of guess that, but basically I'm at your service. I'm happy to come back. The council is now not in session, as you know, so
okay. Okay.
Are there questions in the audience?
Or among commissioners?
Commissioners?
How many, I just have one question.
Okay. Before you do that, I'm going to make a motion to extend debate on this for 3 minutes. All right, second. All in favor? All right, unanimous. Go.
How many buildings does this affect in our ANC? Because I have quite a few rental apartments in my ANC, single member district. Are we talking just Equity or Avalon, which is the Avalon house now? I just want a rough idea. I don't want to walk the page. I just want to know.
Basically, potentially, so if the building is under rent control, it's potentially impacted. The problems are rising in larger buildings, in portfolios like Equities and Avalons. But a part of the legislative, the reason why it's a difficult issue legislatively is a lot of people are of the mind that, yeah, there's a problem there that needs to be fixed. But you don't want to do away with good rent concessions. And some people, we believe it's largely theoretical that there are good rent concessions that grandma's living in the basement and you want to give her a break, and the landlord who is good-hearted in that way shouldn't be penalized in terms of leasing an allowable rent increase.
So you can't answer my question.
So the answer is potentially a lot, and I can give you a district-wide statistic that would help, which is that.
No, I just want the buildings in our area.
Do you know the
Do you
buildings
mean
that are
the
affected
We
in our
don't
area?
know because a lot of people think what's happening to them is legitimate and it's not. So one of our goals with the community meeting will be to get people out. We're starting to hear more and more. The Cleveland Park listserv a couple of months ago had a vigorous discussion. People were reporting this. We know at least one building in your district and one in mine. We believe because many of the landlords in the city are receiving advice from a very small number of firms that there's reason to believe this is very widespread, but we don't have data on it because obviously landlords have no incentive to advertise widely that they are clearly skirting the intent of the rent control law.
It seems to be the mothership that split the Equity and Avalon.
And when you say impact, you mean adversely impacted. And
Well, I mean, those are the buildings that are being impacted.
There was a 2011 report by the Urban Institute for the City which showed that they found that there were 11 or 12,000 people in Ward 3 who were potentially subject to.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. 1 minute, yeah.
Maybe it follows on her question, what constitutes a rent-controlled building?
Okay, well, every rental unit in the district is presumed to be under rent control unless the unit qualifies and properly takes the exemption. So unless the owner has taken exemptions such as a new construction exemption for buildings built after 1975 or a small landlord exemption, natural persons who own rental accommodations of 4 units or a district or federal subsidy, those are the typical exemptions. Unless an exemption is properly claimed, then really the unit is under rent. But the practical answer is that about 60%, about 50 to 8% of residences are rentals, and about 60% of those rentals are under rent control. Just to help, does that make sense? So that's about 40% of all residences under rent control.
And this doesn't affect the housing, low-income housing, that you have to put in new buildings?
It's a.
Doesn't it impact that at all?
Well,
Affordable housing within the new?
We gotta do it. Like I said, this is just kind of an introduction to the issue. You know, and if you have additional questions, you can all reach out to the Office of Tenant Advocates and keep on the lookout for a more in-depth meeting at a later date. And I'm sure.
If you or anyone you know has heard about this practice happening in your building or elsewhere, please email me 3f02@anc.dc.gov. I really want to hear from you. There is power in numbers. And thank you to our speakers for being here. This is just the beginning of our conversation.
And spread the word to your neighbors. This is an issue a lot of people don't know about. When I learned about it, it really kind of caught me off guard. So, okay. We're going to move on now to discuss the public space application for Sfolina Restaurant.
Yes, on a happy note, we're inviting the owner, Fabio Recco, to come up and speak. I've been working, I've been working with Lynn White, his project manager, on this. It's been a wonderful relationship, and we're very excited to have you in our neighborhood, and we look forward to this presentation.
We're excited to be here.
But how much time do you need for the presentation?
I left 20 minutes.
20 minutes? 10 minutes for presentation, 10 minutes for question? All right, I'm going to make a motion to discuss this resolution for 20 minutes. Do I have a second? Commissioner Gresham with a second. All in favor? Aye. Unanimous.
Great. Commissioner, good evening. Members of the community, good evening as well. This is a restaurant. I'm the managing partner of Fabio Restaurant Group. We operate 3 restaurants already in the city. You may know some of them. One of them is Fiola downtown in the front quarter. The second one is Casaluca that we opened in 2015 in also front quarter downtown on 11 New York Avenue. And the third one is Fiola Mare, which is located in Georgetown on the Georgetown waterfront. Sfolina is our 4th restaurant, opening this fall winter, I guess. We hope for really before the end of the year. And it will be a concept that is dedicated to the craft of making pasta. We're bringing back a lost art of craft making of fresh pasta, and we're making that a center stage of the concept itself. So there you see some images of what is the traditional, totally handmade pasta from scratch. And the name of the ladies that are doing this, or the way you describe this type of craft in Italy, is referred as Sfolina, which takes the name for the restaurant. Sfolina will showcase a range of house-made pasta of all kinds. The menu will change daily, and obviously we're going to mirror the focus and the core value of our restaurant, which is delivering a product of the highest quality of all kinds, from the setting to the quality of what you're making. Sfolina is planning to offer a lunch and dinner and Sunday brunch. They will probably mirror into also a Saturday brunch as well. The restaurant will offer carry-out as part of their services. and will be both carry out of fresh made pasta that can be cooked at home with sauces, or fully cooked and ready to be consumed. There will be a minor selections of condiments that are being branded with our name and our logo for retails that also be sold into Spodje. This is a bit of our story. And I'm not new to Washington, D.C. I worked first in 1995 into a restaurant that today is our own restaurant, Fiola, which is our very first restaurant. That was about more than 20 years ago. That I met my wife, and we took over the space that once was called Pizza, and today is called Fiola. And we've been there for 5 years. We celebrated the 50 years in April this year. We're known for old world service and outstanding hospitality, and we've been awarded with due recognition in the community of Washington, D.C. as far as this type of service. This is the three restaurants that we're operating: Fiola, Casaluca, that I mentioned before, and Fiola Mare. They're distinguished on their own, they're different concept. Fiola is a fine dining restaurant, Casaluca is an upscale casual. Fiola Mare is an Italian seafood and coastal cuisine restaurant. You see some of the awards and accolades of our restaurants. The very first restaurant, which is the equivalent of our first child. It's been recently re-reviewed as a 3.5-star restaurant in Washington Post, and we listed all of our category of awards for outstanding program, such as service, wine, pastry chef nomination, fine dining restaurant of the year, best new restaurant in America, and so forth. The following is Casaluca, which is our upscale casual restaurant. It's more of a regional cooking of Le Marche, where I come from in Italy, and also Spanish cooking dedicated to my wife, which is from Spain. Casaluca has won some awards on his own. The latest in 2016 was recognizing the job of our chef there. Erin Clark has been nominated one of the rising stars in Washington, D.C. In the beginning of 2013, on its very first year, was recognized by GQ being a best 25 restaurant in America. Fiola Mare, it's our most recent restaurant. It was opened in 2014 as a mirror awards of these sisters restaurants, all the way up to this year, where we score #1 restaurant in Washington, D.C. for Washington Magazine. And Jordan Goldstein represents Gensler, is the architect, very well known in the community of D.C. and also worldwide. So we'll take over the presentation and we'll describe the inspirations for what we're trying to do with the interior and exterior space. Thank you.
Thanks, Fabio. It's been my pleasure to be working with Fabio and with Lynn on this concept and to bring this to this part of the neighborhood. We thought it'd be great to take you a little bit inside the vision and talk about how we're also bringing that vision from inside to outside. The images that you see here, when we start a project, we like to find inspirational images, precedent images that help us set the mood and tone of a project. So the images that you see on the screen here are representative of images that served as our inspiration for this project. And as Fabio said, the idea is to bring back the art and craft of making pasta, of being able to appreciate the handcraft environment. We felt that it would be right to create an environment, an interior environment that felt like a home. So the inspirations, the materials, the fabrics, the finishes, and the spaces will have that feel inside. So if you go to the next slide, this is a rendering of ours that we put together to illustrate the bar area, which then leads to the main dining area. This is a small restaurant, one that has a level of intimacy to it, which we think is actually very appropriate for the neighborhood. It is something that, if you're familiar with the site, it is one that is actually not a large retail space. So the feeling that we wanted to do is have things be on display. So that idea of making is on display. So if you look to the right of the image, actually go back one minute, there you go. To the right of the image, there's a cook line, which is traditionally in restaurants something where the food would be passed and not experienced as a full dining environment. And what we've done here is said that actually you'll be able to sit there with the chef. It's like basically everyone can be a part of the chef's table. So that transitions to the next slide, to a dining room that feels very much like a parlor, like a dining room that could be in a house. which is kind of a feature of the space. So when we thought about this and we thought about the experience, one of the things we looked at is how do you bring the inside-outside. If we go to the next slide. This is a floor plan. The top half is the interior of the restaurant, including the kitchen. In the back of the house, there it is. And in a space like this, we felt like it's important to get as much of the back of house to be front of house. So that restaurant environment, when you walk in, to the left is a wonderful pasta making area that's visible from the street, with windows to the street. As you go to the right, you come into the bar area that I showed in the earlier rendering, and to that larger chef's table concept where it's an open kitchen. And then to the right is the dining room that I showed in the prior rendering. The area that's to the bottom half of the slide is the outdoor area. And what we've done is taken that entry experience, which is to the left, bottom left, and created an enclosure which creates a Four Seasons dining experience that has glass to the street, as well as visibility into the restaurant. And then the area to the right of that, to the bottom right quadrant of the image, is outdoor dining. It's covered, but it's an outdoor dining experience. So basically, again, bringing that outside experience to be something that's reflective of what's going on inside. We go to the next image. Part of that was being able to adapt the new building environment to be conducive to having an outdoor terrace that is something that can be a positive dining experience. So we took or in the process of taking the fire standpipes hose bin connection and moving that forward to the lines that you see in the green. And then also being able to adjust the level transition on the right side to make it more of a flat dining area for this outdoor area. If you go to the next render, this is an image dusk shot that shows the entry of the restaurant. You can see kind of like a beacon to the left side there, the view into the pasta room, which is basically where you would have the pasta maker on display making the pasta, and it's being served fresh in the restaurant. To the right is the enclosure environment that we're doing, which has a glass fascia to it that's operable. So doors slide open, allowing the natural kind of air and light to be a part of the restaurant experience. There's a red canvas roof that stretches across that covers this entry experience as well as the dining experience, and then extends to that outdoor dining so that you have a continuous experience visually across the front that unifies the entry experience, unifies the presence of the restaurant, and then also creates a room that, again, we wanted this room to feel like it's part of that home as well. So that's why you see, if you imagine if you had a sunroom in your house or a Four Seasons room that had a glass front with windows and doors, that this would be a wonderful place to dine in, and much the same here. We go to the next one. This is an elevation shot. So the top image is the existing building that is recently completed, and then the image below that shows the red awning that you saw in the prior slide with the enclosure area to the left with the glass, and then the open area to the right that has the posts. And then from a water treatment standpoint, what we're doing is basically bringing the water from the canopy to a gutter system, which then comes in downspouts to the planting bed. If you go back one way, there you go. You can see there's a planting bed that goes across the front there. Okay. And then in terms of the functionality of this, as mentioned, it's really a Four Seasons room experience. So the entry doors to the left in the bottom image, and then there's a series of sliders to the right of that that opens up that room or closes it if the weather is such that it's not suitable to be the right environment for that. And then the outdoor dining is such that you have the covering, which would provide obviously the covering protection for weather, but also provides a dining experience that feels like it's connected to the restaurant and to the spaces that are beyond in the dining room that you saw in the earlier image. So with that, I'll conclude the presentation, and we can open it up to any questions. We're very much looking forward to being a part of the community and providing a restaurant environment that I think everyone will find to be a very wonderful experience inside and out.
Great. Looks like we have about 8 minutes for questions. I'm going to open up to the commissioners first, and then we'll go to the audience.
Could I just ask Lynn, would you like to talk about the construction schedule just a little bit?
Yeah.
Before we take questions?
Thank you. So I'm happy to tell you that we started construction on Monday. We anticipate it being 16 weeks long. So as Fabio says, we're hoping to open in November, certainly by the end of the year. And the construction hours are every day from 9 to 3. So that's
7 to 7.
Well, we're starting early, but no noise.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
Any other questions about the constructions? I know you asked about whether there'd be street closures, and we don't anticipate there being any.
Or sidewalk.
Right, or sidewalk.
Okay. And the one time you would have the crane for putting the roof in?
Yes,
on
that'd be a 2-hour window.
Early morning or
Yes.
late night?
Yes.
Great. And all the deliveries will be coming in through the garage?
Correct.
That was some of the questions.
Yeah,
from the
okay.
commissioners.
Any other questions about the construction?
Deliveries during the construction or deliveries during operation?
During
During
construction.
construction.
And-
And you might want to talk about the loading dock,
Well,
the
during,
trash room. Also,
there's a
that's-
trash room. All of our deliveries will go to the loading dock during the restaurant opening and, during the operations.
Which the loading dock is down under the building. They have to go through the public alley and then to the left into the Park Venice building. So almost everything will be done underground.
Yes.
They also have a trash room. I'm speaking for you.
That's okay.
You're doing great.
Yeah, that's great. There's a conditioned trash room off of the loading dock, so we won't have any dumpsters or anything in the alley. So there will be a daily pickup of both our recycling and our trash from that trash room. And it's really being timed to be convenient and not disturb the residents, either in that building or the building that's on the other side of the alley.
And could we get your name for the record? Or
Lynn
did you
White.
get-
Yeah, it's Lynn White, and I'm acting as the project manager.
And the other gentleman who spoke?
It's Jordan Goldstein.
Thank you.
And could we get a copy of this? I know Commissioner Gresham might have it, but we'll put it up on the website
Right,
for the public.
a PDF
Yes.
after the presentation. They just finished this today, so they had an
It's an
earlier one
excellent
that is on
presentation.
the website.
Yeah.
I want to thank you all for listening to our community and revising the roof structure. It's wonderful, thank you. I do have a question which, Lynn, you've answered today for me. Is it okay if, that in your, you might want to put the rendering back up? I want to be sure everybody understands that the planning bed that is at the building now currently will extend in front, which it doesn't in the rendering, in front of the enclosed plant
goes
structure,
all the way across
especially
here.
commissioners.
Oh, okay.
The standpipes will be in the same place that were from the
Yes,
other
so-
drawings?
Yes, the standpipes will actually be in the planting bed. So actually there will be there won't be a lot of visibility of the standpipes because they'll be where the bushes are.
I would like to say that OP, reviewer, Office of Planning, and I have spoken, and I know you've had many meetings with him. He has approved the structure. I don't know if he's seen the recent
No,
roof,
he has,
but-
I've sent it to him.
Okay, great. So that's wonderful news. I assume you're gonna hear from the fire marshal on the standpipes?
I had already very early on met with the fire marshal and showed him the plan of where we were proposing to relocate them, and he said it was fine. It met with all the codes in terms of the relationship to the public sidewalk as well as the height. And I also had it reviewed by Sidney Lester, who is the main fire reviewer at DCRA, and he also approved it.
Great. A lot of this has not come up on the top system yet, so therefore I'm asking the questions. I think the biggest concern that our ANC has in our community, we have a lot of stormwater runoff situations along Connecticut Avenue. It's not just yours, it's the whole Connecticut Avenue has some major issues that we are having to address. All this water now currently just goes into Soapstone Valley, and it's eroding Soapstone Valley. You have now 4 points. You have the interval gutter, which is fabulous, and you have the 4 points of downspouts. Our concern is that amount, 4 points of water in a heavy storm, or even just a regular rainfall, will put the water on the sidewalk, which our community does not want, especially from a pedestrian standpoint. So could you elaborate a little bit more on the planning?
Sally raised this concern, and I appreciate the concern, we all do. And so in response to that, I discussed it further with Saul, so I understood what was going on with the building and what might be other options. I also discussed it with the manufacturer of the system, the structure that we're putting in, and also I have a conversation with our structural engineer. So we can look at all the sort of viable options to deal with the situation of the stormwater runoff. So right now, it is designed to have the gutter system with the downspouts at 4 locations. When we finalize the engineering of this, we will look at, one option is to add additional ones along the length of it if we feel like the flow is too much to only be coming through 4 points. And I also found out from Saul today that there are 2 drains already currently existing at either end of our enclosure that go down to their drain, their stormwater drains. And so the other alternative is that we could easily tie our drainage system into that, so it wouldn't run into the sidewalk at all.
That would be a fabulous solution.
So in talking to Saul, we're looking at the drawings, and we will figure out a solution that we feel like will address the issue.
That's great. That was one of our concerns, and you're addressing that, we appreciate.
I think it's beautiful, and welcome to Van Ness. We're really thrilled to have you all here. And I understand you've already been pressed into service for cooking for a Van Ness fundraiser, Van Ness Main Street. So we're very grateful.
We would really like Spodina to be an extension of every one of your houses.
That's so lovely.
It's the way
Welcome.
we designed the restaurant. It calls for the concept, and it has attached to it the historical fact of this lost craft of pasta making, which was something that my parents and it was my father, it was not my mother, but it was doing at home, and that's an Italian cultural tradition. So the association of the mother figure that makes the fresh pasta, and the fact that this restaurant needs to feel like an extension of every one of the neighborhood houses. That's what we're thrilled about it, and we are excited to bring this concept to the community.
And we're all going to have lessons in how to say the name.
But it was done beautifully. I was extremely proud.
Thank you. Do you guys have any questions? Are there
Welcome.
questions? Are there questions in the audience? All right, we have timed that perfectly. Excellent. Good job. So
you all.
we're going to move on, and we'll talk about the resolution. If I have a,
I have the resolution.
I'm sorry?
I have the resolution.
All right. If I give a resolution to pass? To
Propose, yes, I propose the following resolution be put into the top system, the Public Space Regulatory Administration. Do you want me to read it all? Or?
Why don't you just read the operative clause at the end?
We're basically saying it's a new sidewalk cafe enclosure at the address, which Lynn, I changed the address to read correctly, which you might do on DDOT, and that you met with commissioners. You responded to the request for information concerning the design and provided sufficient information to evaluate the proposed use. And you've also met with the Office of Planning, who has indicated their conditional approval of the design. Now, therefore be resolved that ANC 3F supports with conditions application 102-35807 to occupy public space to create a new sidewalk cafe enclosed with the condition that they demonstrate that any stormwater runoff, ice, and snow be adequately controlled so that it does not affect the safety of pedestrians using the adjacent sidewalks and will provide calculations of the impact to ANC 3F. These specific comments below will be entered into TOPS. Be it further resolved that Commissioners Gresham and Nugent are authorized to speak on the behalf of the ANC. I also received a letter from Saul that needs to go possibly into the record that they are very happy about the design and they support and approve the concept.
Okay, I'm just gonna make a amendment. We're gonna add an L.
Yes,
right there.
public, I just saw it.
Yeah, so if you take that.
A typo.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, do I have a second? Commissioner Allison with the second. All in favor?
With an L.
All opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Welcome, guys.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So now our next item agenda item is a resolution in support of a public space application for Murch Elementary swing space at the UDC. Do we have someone out there to talk
Yeah,
about?
we have two people here.
Okay,
I
I'm
can-
going to let you tee it up.
Sure.
About how much time do you guys think you need?
We're just here to answer
Answer any questions?
Yeah,
Okay.
let's say 10 minutes.
Uh,
Yeah.
Let's bump it up to 15, just so we don't have to come back.
All right.
So I'm going to let you tee it up, and then we'll kick it to you, and then any questions from the audience. But
Can I just request that as anybody comes up to the microphone to speak, just introduce yourself and tell me your name and, okay, for the record. Thank you very much.
So yeah, once you speak, we can do it. But I motion to consider this resolution with a timeline of 15 minutes. Second, Commissioner Dickinson, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? It passes unanimously.
So I'd like to introduce Mr. Kenny Diggs and Ms. Sarah Hasselman, both from the Department of General Services. Welcome this evening. I'm sorry we're late into the evening, but this is a public space application for, and I'll let them describe it in more detail, but I believe it's for a curb cut and to afford a driveway into the Murch Elementary swing space that is being installed on the east side of on the west side of UDC. I think the commission would like to hear a little bit of an update overall on what's happening with the swing space, what your timing is. Hopefully good news that it'll be fully operational at the start of the school year. We have a couple questions about the stormwater at the site, a little bit about the sidewalk on Van Ness Street, some traffic management issues. I don't know if you'd like to make an introductory remark before I start. I don't want to be peppering you. I actually want to express appreciation that you're here tonight and that we want to welcome, obviously, Murch Elementary to UDC.
Yeah, so thank you, Commissioner, and thank you, Commissioner, for allowing us to be here. We do not have any new drawings because we don't have anything new for the project other than the construction portion of it that we can explain tonight. And Sarah is the project manager for the project, has been for quite some time now, and so she and I will tag team the answers to your questions. So Sarah, can you just give a quick update?
Could you state your name too? And
My name is Kenny Diggs with the Department of General Services.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir. Correct.
And I'm Sarah Hasselman, the project manager. I can spell that for you after, sir. And I'm going to cheat a little bit here because I got an update about some of the construction that's even more updated than the update that goes to the community at the end of every week. So currently we have 58 trailers on site out of 86. So we have 51 that are set in place, 7 that are on site, just not formally set in their location yet. 8 trailers will be delivered tomorrow. Another round of trailers will be delivered later this week. And by Friday, we should have about 90 to 95% of the trailers on site. So we feel really confident about the schedule. I know that that was something that you referenced. We've been working. We have weekly meetings with UDC to make sure that any concerns that they have are addressed, formally with our team. And that's kind of the broad overview of where we are with the swing space. The curb cut proposal is to allow an access road along the east side of the soccer field. It's for both the kitchen deliveries for the students, the swing space, the merge students while they're there, as well as allowing emergency egress to the field behind that will remain operational until UDC does construction on it at a later date. So we're working with them to make sure that there's emergency egress as well as access for the kitchen deliveries.
So the emergency egress, is that just for, let's say, fire trucks to access different trailers throughout the site, or is it, you mentioned a field at probably the north end. What's happening on that field that needs emergency services?
It would be if someone that was playing soccer on the field with the university campus got hurt.
Okay.
If an ambulance or something.
Okay.
Back there.
So there's also, if you don't mind, I just have a couple of questions, if I may. There's been a concern about the geothermal installation. I think there's been a email conversation with Commissioner Nugent and I and you folks, but for the good of the community, can you explain what general steps you're taking to prevent any impact on that?
Yeah, sure. So we have a third-party consultant hired and is there full-time monitoring the geothermal wells. He's an expert in geothermal well construction. It was part of the MOU, which is Memorandum of Understanding, with the University of DC and DGS and DCPS. So we monitor, there's a vault. I can get detailed if you want me to, but we monitor on a daily basis and honestly an hourly basis to make sure that there's no impact to the wells. And then we will continue monitoring as the swing space trailers remain on the well field. And we do not anticipate any sort of issue. We've done multiple structural calculations. If there is an issue, there are emergency plans in place.
With regard to the stormwater mitigation and runoff, can you briefly describe? It sounds like some measures are in place. It wasn't clear in some of your emails what is in place and what's still to be developed.
Sure. So when we went through our permitting process, we had multiple meetings with DOE, and it was negotiated that we would have a stormwater waiver to meet the typical stormwater requirements that would be necessary due to the temporary nature of the swing space construction. What is part of that agreement is that DGS will help UDC come up with a plan once the location is turned back into a field by UDC. We will help them come up with solutions to meet the stormwater management requirements.
Okay. A couple of questions on, I guess, I'll characterize it in the bucket of traffic flow, traffic management. There's been a discussion about the brick sidewalk. I think DDOT's come out and looked at it as well. This is on the north side of Van Ness, or sort of abutting the UDC and the swing space. Can you describe what will be done before the school is open in terms of making sure that those bricks aren't unnecessarily loose or a hazard to the students, and then what's going to be maintained, and then how the curb cut will be restored after merch leaves?
Sure. So the goal for restoration of the whole site is to put it back as it is now. So the curb will be replaced to be what is existing at this time. In terms of the bricks, I have not heard that concern voiced previously, so we will definitely look into it and make sure that it's safe for student pathways as well as pedestrian access for.
Yeah, let me just emphasize that as part of the UDC community meeting a week ago, and this is my district, I hear residents continually complaining about that safety issue for pedestrians, and now the students, and Councilmember Che I know has also been involved. So I'll just, as a matter of courturity to our government partners here, that's a pretty critical step.
So Sarah and I will walk that in the next 48 hours to put eyes on it ourselves to make sure, and with Sarah being the controller of the purse for the construction project, we'll make sure that she knows she is comfortable with the next steps to make it.
Yeah, and that's been you're not bringing that issue, it's an ongoing issue, but in terms of just maintenance, but also sort of a, I don't know, preventative maintenance, that this doesn't just keep recurring. An eye toward that would be great, and I'll try to help you if you have.
And we'll also work with our sister agency, DDOT, to make sure that they don't have anything already in the works, that they're not doing double up.
Well, DDOT and UDC, I just want to chime in here. They just put in all new sidewalks on Connecticut with the student center, and they turned the corner, and it was supposed to be in the plan in the future, partnering with DDOT before Merch actually came to this space, that the brick sidewalks would be hopefully removed in a certain time frame. So we do need to work with DDOT because they have become very much of a safety hazard. And I know with the safe routes to school, I would assume that that's been moved from Merch to now UDC.
Agreed.
Upcoming.
So we definitely hear you.
And the street also will need some repair, I'm sure, after, so it kind of goes hand in hand with all the construction and what's going on.
I can't agree to.
I know Mike's in the back there, he knows we're always doing streets and sidewalks, so.
So Kenny and Sarah, we know that the Merch community is excited and appreciative of all your hard work, so I apologize. I'm asking these questions for the sake of the community, but in the spirit of cooperation. And so you mentioned, Sarah, the trailer deliveries this week and X percentage being this week and then hopefully completed soon. As those empty trucks leave the site, the trailers are unloaded, a concern's been expressed that they're traveling west on Van Ness Street and then potentially onto Reno and or Van Ness. Do you know if that's the case? I can't remember what the weight limit is there, but there are complaints that rather than going back out Connecticut Avenue the way they came in, they're now exiting a different way through the neighborhood.
Sure. So we have an approved truck route, and it does route the trucks through that portion of Van Ness Street. I believe that the logic behind that is the size of the truck. Even once the trailer is off, it can't make that U-turn. When you come out of the site, right, you have that middle of the road barrier. You can't make that turn around. So the methodology and approved route through submission to DDOT was we had to exit that way.
So you exit Van Ness west toward Wisconsin and then go out Wisconsin, or I don't know where you go, but
I'll have
something
to double
like
check.
that.
But yeah, we can share the approved
to
truck route with you.
Wisconsin.
Sorry?
It goes to Wisconsin. They have on your website, you have a truck route plan, and actually it comes in, goes up to Yuma, which a couple of people on Yuma have complained a little bit, but the truck route that I guess DDOT approved goes Yuma, then down Connecticut, then down Van Ness, into the site, through the site, and then back out Van Ness to Wisconsin, and then back to Maryland, Virginia.
Correct.
So you are following, there was I have noticed, and I get it from Teresa, because she's sitting on Connecticut in her office, it does look like they're not coming down Yuma, they're coming with a police escort further up Connecticut.
Yeah.
So it seems like when the trailer comes, it's different than the truck route. Is that true?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and we'll continue to monitor it. It should be over in about 2 weeks, and then in 2 years it'll be back for about 3 weeks. So the complaints should stop relatively soon.
Okay, so some of the trucks are only coming.
Well, no, I get it. But in looking at the pros and cons of what happened during the delivery, we make the adjustments for the removal.
A couple other things on traffic. I understand that I think it's 36th Street, basically from Van Ness, as it kind of segues in or enters into Reno there. 36th Street down to Yuma. There are parking meters on the east side of that street.
Yes.
Can you describe what's happening to those? Are they being permanently removed? Are they being covered?
So
In order to allow the merge parents and other people with a Zone 3 parking permit to park there?
So the latter part probably will not happen about parking there, because we're gonna work with DCPS to remove those, to be able to make that Van Ness.
Yeah.
But then on
Yuma.
Yuma,
I think you're in.
I'm asking about 36th Street between Van Ness and Yuma. There's sort of a diagonal cut street there
I don't
that
think
currently
we're-
has meters on it.
36th Street is the modernization side, right? So
We don't plan to do.
we're
any-
not doing
We're not
anything
removing
on
the.
36th Street.
Correct.
What do you mean it's the modernization side on it?
Right, so 36th Street is where the is the merch.
There should be
So
a map right there.
what we're saying though is if not, the only thing that we're removing in terms of meters is on the Van Ness Street side.
Right.
So we're,
The other stuff is a separate project.
I would assume.
I don't know, it's not a project yet. I'm going to just to preview this. I will make that a motion that we consider strongly suggesting that to DGS and DDOT, that those meters, you're gonna have not just parking now on Van Ness Street or additional traffic there associated with the merge parents, but merge parents are gonna be starting to park up in the community west of the school, west of Reno.
But 36 is around the corner.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Right, so people are either gonna park on Yuma, those spaces I know from yesterday are already occupied.
Right.
They're occupied well before merge gets there,
So we're
so those,
working with DCPS now to try to mitigate that from happening. But, yeah, we're trying to bus from the merge school to the site now. And we've done that, DCPS has done that in other modernization projects. But we're working out the logistics of that now to try to mitigate that situation from happening. It is not a done deal, and we've not worked out, fully vetted it and worked it out, but that is, to your point, we are thinking about that.
right, I just have a heightened concern that, despite working in the transportation field and looking for efficiencies and buses making sense, and they're doing that, it said, well, these people live 10 blocks away, they're going to work, they're gonna drop their kids by car, and they're gonna park somewhere. They're either gonna park on Yuma, they're gonna look to park on 36, there'll be parking meters there, and they'll move up. I fully support and hope that you guys can incentivize or create an opportunity for bus transportation. I don't know if there'll be the necessary buy-in, so I will make a motion that we at least ask you guys to take a closer look at that, including the meters on 36th Street. Can you describe, last question, sorry, I know that's okay.
Before you do that, are there questions in the audience on this issue? All right, I'm going to make a motion to extend debate on this for another 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Any second?
Okay, well, none of the rest of us have had a chance.
Do you have questions?
Yes.
Okay. Are there additional questions?
The last question is,
No,
go ahead.
we need to extend debate.
No,
We're at
go
our
ahead.
limit right now.
I second the
I'm gonna
motion
just
for
play on
3
what you're
minutes.
talking about.
All in favor? 3 additional minutes.
Yuma Street, is there a plan for an entrance there into the, sort of the backside of the school?
So I actually personally watched this and made sure that there is a pedestrian path that goes from Yuma to the site, and we're going to be installing wayfinding signage to help the MERS students and parents navigate themselves through the campus. But there is an existing path from Yuma up to where the swing space is going to be.
I yield my time.
Are you, well, so I will piggyback on that, because that's my question. Since you're gonna have 2 drop-off points, technically, can you explain the 2 drop-off points? One is on Yuma, because there are parking meters, there's no real drop-off at that entry to get right next to the tennis courts. That was one of the questions that I think Commissioner Maliki Agent had raised in the previous, because we're trying to work to get sidewalk and curbs in that particular area, because it's a hillside with with parking and no sidewalk on that part of that side. So it's a continuous sidewalk which we've spoken to DDOT about. So I just want you all to know that. It's in the hopper somewhere. And then the drop-off for the students, which has always been a concern, the MERT site. And also, where are teachers parking? And to add on to that, and to, obviously, people that are coming to the school in this 2.5 year period that normally come to merge, and also parents that come, that are working, volunteering, etc.
Where do they park?
Yeah, because there's no parking that I can tell from the entry, the curb cut that you all are asking for. That is not where people are gonna be able to drive in and drop off their kids, or to park back in that area.
Yes, Sarah can
So
answer
that, they have a parking garage, but there's nothing that we've seen as how that's gonna be accommodated surrounding the merge swing space.
Okay, so I heard a couple questions in there. First question I'll answer is teacher parking. DCPS and UDC are negotiating teacher parking spaces within the UDC parking garage. We do not know yet how many spaces that will be, but DCPS is working on that. In terms of pickup and drop-off locations, there is one pickup and drop-off location. It is along Van Ness Street. We are providing a secondary option for parents to pick up and drop off their children on Yuma Street, but likely DCPS is assuming that parents that do drop off their students on Yuma will actually be walking their students in because of the long navigating through the campus. So it will, they will likely park and not just linger. And the way that DCPS is really trying to mitigate that is through the busing. And they have talked with the CIT about making sure that we're always in constant communication to make any small changes that are needed if the buses aren't working as intended. The other question I heard was about the parking for visitors, parents,
volunteers,
right, whomever. That has not been part of the negotiations with UDC. I think the assumption would be that those visitors would be able to park in a nearby location, whether they had the Ward 3 sticker or maybe they're only there for 2 hours. That would be the assumption there.
I definitely think we should write something in about that then, because it's going to put a lot of pressure on that area. The residents already complain about a lot of parking on Van Ness, Yuma 36.
Right. Okay. Well, I have a proposal that we can tweak that. I know we have a merch representative from CIT. I don't know if anyone else. I'm sorry, Pat, if you've got any other.
Do you have anything on that as far as the parking and the?
No, I mean, it's right at the border of the merge boundary anyway, so a lot of people are walking. It's no different than parking out, so we don't have a parking lot.
I know.
Actually, on-street parking around merge than there is here, so it has not come up as a problem, but certainly have to talk about options, but.
Reduce rates at the
Well, it could be like.
I mean, maybe reduce rates at the UDC parking garage. I think they've got plenty of space there, unless there's a special event going on.
We have 900 spaces.
All right, we're going to have to cut this off unless we have more questions for them, and then we'll need to extend the time, do we? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Can you, when do you need this public space?
Sarah, when is the public space permit needed?
When do you come up on the agenda? Their public space agenda?
For the modernization, I'm sorry.
No.
For the swing.
Oh, for swing space.
For that curb cut.
Is this?
Yeah, as soon as possible.
Okay.
Is this July 28th? Is it coming up next week?
I'd have to double check, but I believe so.
It's likely, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's what they have on the.
Yeah, so we need to.
Yeah.
So, Pat, I do have a resolution. I'd like to sort of introduce that or make a motion to discuss that.
Second it.
Okay.
All in favor?
So I did circulate this. Actually, Maliki had taken a first stab at this, and it is, in short, a resolution in support of the curb cut. And we kind of lay out, I don't know how much detail I really want to go into on the first page. There's 2 pages here, but again, it's just that the DGS has confirmed that it'll take steps to mitigate the impacts of stormwater, look at its effect on soapstone, provide us with any updates on the likely impact there. They've just confirmed again that there will not be any impact on the geothermal site. We'll continue to monitor that. They have developed a traffic management plan, and they continue to work with DDOT, EDC, Merge Sit, and us on that. I will draw your attention to the sort of the conditions of the approval on the back, and Sally, we can certainly flush this out a little bit more. But just for the sake of the community, we approved the public space permit with the conditions that DGS provide the ANC 3F with calculations of the impact of the project on stormwater runoff into Soapstone Valley and demonstration of compliance with applicable requirements, including now when they exit the site and work with UDC to make sure that the stormwater is brought into compliance. Number 2, ensure the project has no negative impact on the geothermal. We're just sort of reiterating that. Number 3, agrees to continue to work with DDOT, UDC, Merge Sit, and ANC to ensure adequate measures are in place to manage traffic flow at the site during the school year. And then I've added, including either the temporary covering or the permanent removal of parking meters on 36th Street between Van Ness and Yuma, and the allowance of Zone 3 parking only. I'm going to scratch this part about the no construction trucks exceeding weight limit be traveling north on Van Ness. I think that that's sort of inevitable for the next 2 weeks. But Sally, that might be a place that we need to think about parking under item 3 there, but let me just continue. Number 4, agrees to restore the curb and sidewalk to the original configured condition, and then to currently repair the sidewalk on the north side of Van Ness between Connecticut and Reno in order to address the safety of the school children against dislodged bricks and ensure long-term durability of the sidewalk. And 5, sorry for the audience, number 5, agrees to work with the Merge Sit and ANC 3F to ensure adequate measures are taken in terms of establishing a walkway off of Yuma Street for the access of students to the merged swing space. So this is really just kind of a reiteration of what you just heard, and just trying to hit home and memorialize our expectations. Sally, we really didn't get into a detailed discussion here about the visitor and parent parking. I heard Mary Beth mention, maybe looking at reduced rates in the garage. I don't have a solution.
I don't think that should go in here.
Okay.
I do think we need to work with.
Is there something we need in here to help us work with DDOT?
I'm sorry?
Is there something we need in here to make that, like we will be contacting them about
There would be
specifics?
adequate parking, but then we have to, how do you say what adequate parking is? Unless we want to get in for staff, or not staff, they're saying it's going to be in the garage for staff.
I don't know if we really want to. I think we just
It's
want
something
skin in the game and
about
continue.
not to put an undue burden on the adjoining neighbors.
Right.
If we can write something in about that.
Okay. I'll put that in under number 3 then.
That's basically what we're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we need to do it while we vote. So we'll put it as not manage parking, as not to create an undue burden on neighbor?
Yeah, I mean, I'm putting in under number 3, agrees to continue with all the parties, manage traffic flow, permanent, including this parking meter on 36th Street, and to otherwise ensure that no undue burden is placed on the community and neighborhood, and that adequate parking is provided for all visitors and parents.
Right.
Somebody will read that back to me.
We're replacing the last part of this clause.
Right.
Beginning with "and to ensure" with
Right.
this
Taking out
instead.
the truck, construction truck.
Right. Thank you, sir.
Maybe add surrounding neighborhood, did you say that? surrounding neighborhood streets.
Right.
All right, I'll read what I got. We'll probably have to tweak it a bit because I might have been off a bit, but I have it as to otherwise ensure no undue burden is created on neighboring streets, surrounding streets, and adequate parking is provided for teachers and parents?
Visitors.
For
Visitors.
For visitors.
And merge parents.
Visitors and merch parents. Okay, I'm going to read that once more. 4 minutes. So 3 will change at the end. We're going to strike the clause that begins "and to ensure no construction trucks" and replace it with "and to otherwise ensure that no undue burden is created on surrounding streets and adequate parking is provided for visitors and merch parents."
Yep.
Okay. It's a friendly amendment. Anything else to discuss? Okay.
I make a motion that we pass this resolution as amended with the friendly amendment.
I second that motion. A motion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? It passes unanimously.
Thank you, Kenny and Sarah. Thanks for your
Thank you.
coming out.
Did you give that English in the minutes, or are you going to need mine? All right. The next item is a resolution. Okay. In support of repair and resurfacing of Linear. Alex, you're speaking in favor of the resolution, correct? All right. You need how much time? Do you have someone who can work the PowerPoint on the back, or do you just want to have us go through it here on the paper copies? Okay. You'll be up here, so you'll have to tell somebody to click the slides. If someone could do that for me. Who else is here to speak about this? One? About the, no, not right now. Are you? Okay. Is it anyone here speaking in opposition to this? Okay. So we're going to do 15 minutes of debate on this. We're going to specifically give 5 on that, 5 on questions, and then we'll reserve 5 minutes for I make a motion to read this resolution and limit debates to 15 minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? So if somebody could come out and
It was a unanimous, just so you know, Pat.
thank you. Okay, I'm just going to tee this up real quick. This is, if someone could swim out and just yeah, you just use the arrows in the bottom right. I don't need that. Yeah, if you would use that, and then remember speaking on that. And then also, if there's commentary, please just remember to introduce yourself. For about the last 8 months, we've been working with residents in this neighborhood to look at a couple of things. There is some very substantial paving problems here, and there are some significant stormwater runoff problems. Many areas there lack curbs. The streets are riddled with holes, and anytime it rains, even a very small rainstorm, huge amounts of runoff and debris are moved around. The community launched a petition last month on which about 2/3 have signed on in favor of a couple issues on which there's wide consensus on. That consensus has been distilled into a resolution I'll be offering tonight based on the specific areas of consensus that exist in the neighborhood. I'll be asking DDOT to do 2 things, do some repaving immediately and embark on a larger infrastructure plan. That infrastructure plan would take place in multiple parts and would be able to get the community input at 30% done, 60% done, 90% done, and 100% done. So there's a long way to go. The community will have multiple other options or opportunities to weigh in on it. I've been so impressed with the amount of feedback I've gotten on all aspects of it, and I hope it continues. And I just want to underscore, this is simply the next step in this process, not the end of it. So Alex, if you go from there.
I don't think I have anything else to add to your presentation.
Okay.
Thank you very much for hosting us this evening. I know it's late. I appreciate your attention to our neighborhood. My name is Alex Kurtzen.
I don't think it's on, sorry. There you go.
Kurtzen? Kurtzen, that is spelled Gertsen. I am a resident on Tilden Place, which connects to Arlene Avenue. And speaking on behalf of the petition, unfortunately, our leader, Karen Forright, was not able to be here. She's the one that has put this together, has been working with Pat for the last few months. For this background, the petition was drafted by neighborhood resident Karen Forright, as I just mentioned, with the help from Pat and Andrew Kaufman from the Department of Transportation. It is a product of extensive neighborhood engagement and participation since November of 2015. I want to emphasize that it wasn't done in a vacuum. Ms. Forright personally contacted all but one of the homeowners on the affected streets by email, telephone, or in person. She was very diligent about it. She conducted an online survey. We held 2 neighborhood meetings in November and April that Hillwood Museum and Gardens, thank you, Kate, for graciously offering their facility to host the meetings and allow us to come together and discuss. We also did not reach out to the embassies. There are 2 embassies that are connected by the street, one from the Democratic Republic of Congo and the other from the Netherlands because of their diplomatic status. If you look at the next slide with the map, you could advance it one more, please. So again, as Pat has reiterated, what we're asking in the immediate action is to repave Linnean Avenue and other areas in blue, which is Lenore Lane and Tilden Place. Those streets have not been paved for over 30 years and are in dire need of repavement. Once that is complete, we can then address the runoff issue and look at what infrastructure improvements would be needed to help the neighborhood, to help address the runoff. So, I could have your attention to the screen. We can see what typically happens during a rainstorm. If you can click on the picture. You can see the water running. This is just a normal rainstorm, not a big thunderstorm like we often get over the summer. What happens here is it makes the street impassable for the residents. Someone like Kate, who lives right across the street from her work, Hillwood Museum and Gardens, has to drive to the office just because the water is so many inches deep that it's really not safe to walk through. Next video, please, and if you could click on it. This is another perspective on Linnean Avenue. Again, you can see that there's not much rain falling in the video and how much water is running down the street. Also, cars that drive fast on the street can lose control, and obviously it's not safe passage for pedestrians, so we hope that we can work together to fix this. And if you can run through, you have these pictures in your packet, so we won't dwell on them on TV. Just to close out, the neighborhood concerns are improved accessibility and safety of our streets. We have numerous visitors passing through the streets every day, accessing the Hillwood Museum and Gardens. We have embassy staff that walk to and from the metro, and of course the residents that are walking, biking, and have children in strollers passing through the street. The residents of the neighborhood are very environmentally conscious. We have 19 residents that have signed up for the Department of Environment and Energy River Smart Program audit and are likely going to be taking advantage of the grants that it offers. And also we want to make sure that we protect the Soapstone Valley Park. It is voted DC's best place in Rock Creek, and it is endangered by the runoff. Finally, if we look at the last page, there are 36 total properties that are affected by this petition. 25, an overwhelming majority, are supporting it. 2 have opposed, and 9 have not responded. And I just want to emphasize that those that have opposed have added additional structures like speed bumps, roundabouts. That's not something that we're putting forward. It's not something we're discussing. So I'm not sure where that confusion came from. We're glad that we have neighbors with great imaginations, but we're not asking for anything that elaborate. So please help us accomplish the repaving at the earliest available opportunity. Thank you.
Great. Do you have any questions for us?
Yeah, just a quick question. The videos, obviously, it looks dangerous and whatever. Is the repaving going to mitigate any of that, or not? That's not going to get mitigated until the stormwater management gets done?
I think the repaving can mitigate some of it because they can level the street in such a way that it would direct the water away from the center of the street, perhaps into the grass and other curb areas. But you're right, we really need to look at what we can do to better direct the water and make sure that the runoff is taken care of appropriately.
And if I could follow up on that, and that's a really good observation. You might notice in the resolution it's asking for two things. One's a repaving and one's an infrastructure right on the tails of it. And, you know, speaking to DDOT about it, they were like, yes, this road is in such poor conditions, we need to repave it. And it's actually on the schedule. But they pointed out that without some modern stormwater mitigation aspects, there's just a lack of inlets. There's no catch basin at the top of this hill. They think that repaving itself would start to deteriorate in about 2 years. And so, yes, the repaving itself won't take care of it, and that's why the second part of the resolution is definitely in there.
Just in terms of economics on this, so is it resurfacing or repaving? And I think repaving means sort of stripping all the old stuff. And
the way I understand it, there's a repaving and there's reconstruction. Reconstruction's the latter thing of stripping it down. And the first one would be repaving. The second part would probably include reconstruction, depending on what DDOT's larger plan for the.
Oh yeah, that's kind of where I was going. Thanks for the definitions. I'm just, as long as we're not spending a lot of money restructuring at the outset and then coming back 2 years later, X amount of time later, and addressing the stormwater issues and ripping up the street to do that. And it sounds like there may be some of that, but people have thought through that.
Is IPMA involved in this? Paul Hoffman's group? Because they do the stormwater runoff. You all are looking at this from the resurface and infrastructure, but in the infrastructure, usually they do the curb, gutter, rehab, and they also then put in the catch basins or whatever. A lot of our area doesn't have catch basins because of the mitigation of the water going down, if the street is done correctly, into the curbs and gutter area, and then into 1 or 2 or 3 catch basins. That is what I've been told on the other side of Lennian and 32nd. That's why there are not certain catch basins, more catch basins in the area. But it sounds like you all don't even have catch basins. Not any.
Well, yeah, they don't. So one of the big problems is if you look at where the what's the Levine School of Music is. Basically, water comes down from there. They're high.
And everybody else is low.
And it keeps going, and
it
goes basically all the way to Tilden before an inlet occurs. And so all that water builds up, not just on their streets, but on those. There is an inlet on Lenore Lane, so some of it passes over there, but anything that ends up going down Lennian doesn't have relief until it gets to the very bottom of that hill.
And some of this goes into soapstone, and the majority of it goes over toward Tilden.
Yeah, I mean, some of it goes into soapstone. Some of it, there's also clogged lanes right by a social trail up on Lenore near soapstone. Some of it probably goes further down into Rock Creek because it takes its way down Tilden down to Pierce Mill and the
it's really a major quality of life issue.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I also see that the water that comes down Tilden there freezes in the winter.
Mm-hmm.
That creates a whole other hazard. I mean, we have received comment wondering why we're prioritizing or elevating this issue, and maybe you'd like to address that, Pat. But I see this as a pretty imminent safety issue, not only for the reasons you've raised, but just the road conditions on Tilden itself are ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, the community has kind of caught our ear on it. They've been organized, and there are many places within our ANC that need attention. We're going to be giving it to them through the Streets and Sidewalk Committee. To me, making a community who's been working on this for months and has got the ear of our agencies and is organized for a petition, and effectively punish them because we haven't gotten ourselves together doesn't make much sense. But and hopefully we'll have the opportunity to fix all our streets and sidewalks. Right.
We got a letter from one of the neighbors who was concerned about speed bumps and some other things. How are you all?
I'm going to enter that into the record, and then I'll cover it with you guys after we finish with Alex and get the live stuff on. I have 2 to enter into the record. So.
But are they going to be part of the resolution, or they're just going to be entered?
It's going to be in our minutes.
Okay.
But so the resolution doesn't address the speed bump
You're right.
issue.
Exactly. It is a separate issue. The resolution covers areas of which there's consensus in the neighborhood. And speed bumps, there are some very strong opinions against them coming into it. There's some opinions that I have received of people in favor of them. At the end of the day, I think, there may be some traffic calming measures that come out of it. I don't know. I don't think that speed bumps are, but at this time I can't make that promise.
Well, actually, right. We shouldn't be talking about speed bumps. We should be asking for a speed, or for a assessment from DDOT on a traffic study, and that leads to what they recommend as far as what can be done, because there are many, many traffic calming ways other than speed bumps, and that's just one way to do it. On Albemarle, they put in the parking white lines, if you notice going down. That is a calming method that we probably need to use more in our area. So there are many different ways to do calming, traffic calming.
Yeah, at the end of the day, there's many different ways to do traffic calming. There's many different ways to do stormwater mitigation, and there's different ways.
Yeah.
And DDOT's going to prepare a plan, and at 30% done, they're going to present it to the neighborhood. And if the neighborhood says this does not match our idea of this, it's going to be tabled and sent back.
Because this happened on Davenport, as Mary Beth is well aware of. That went on for years with the traffic calming situation. So it should be separate. I commend you for doing it separately. Just getting the paving done is a step in the right direction. I just have a question. Is there any sidewalk? Because usually when they do a repaving or curbs and gutters, they put sidewalk on one side. Is DDOT coming back and proposing where they're putting these sidewalks?
Do you want me to take this?
Sure, I'm thinking, I'll say what the community thinks, and I think some people in the community will very much welcome the sidewalk, but ultimately we all want to come together and understand what the recommendations of TDOT are and what would be best for the community, and then we can perhaps come to a unified consensus, some give and take as to what will be best.
Right, because usually you have to do a petition, and with your working with DDOT, then they should be able to come to you all and with the sidewalk, and then you have to go through the neighbors saying yes or no. They have not changed that.
Yeah, so specifically, the sidewalk mandate is triggered by road reconstruction as opposed to repaving. There has been, if you look at the resolution there, it's broken down into the parts of the project that would require reconstruction that would trigger it, and others that would not trigger sidewalks. The places where sidewalks would be required, on one side of the road, it's covered by 3 out of 5. Is covered by 5 property owners. 3 of those 5 have already signed on in support of the petition. One is homeowner has not answered either way, and the other is the Congolese embassy. And just to follow up on that, the DDOT deals directly with the Department of State on that. It has the potential to delay projects at some times. As of right now, there are 15 feet of public space that aren't in the street in front of that embassy, where DDOT could put sidewalks in without encroaching on their land, the embassies. So.
Sounds like you've got the majority.
They do have a majority.
Yeah.
So if it goes in on that side,
right.
if that's
60%.
DDOT's. So. Any other questions for Al? Any questions from the audience?
Any smiles from the audience?
Okay. Anyone else would like to speak about this? Sure.
Should I speak from here?
Yeah, come on up. Introduce yourself for the record. Sure.
Yeah.
Just about 1
You
minute
didn't
we
do
got.
that from the, okay. You're a perfect
Really selling it.
example for bad street.
But I will tell you that I was a little nervous when it seemed that I did need the surgery. So my name is Greer Goldman, and my husband and I live at 4231 Lenore Lane. We've lived there for 19 years, and over those 19 years, we've seen the pavement on Linian and Lenore deteriorate. For most of that time, we had golden retrievers, and I would walk in the neighborhood twice a day, morning and night. And in I would walk in the springtime through that water that you saw a picture of, and it's pretty treacherous when you're trying to walk, and the water is rushing by. As was mentioned, the winter was particularly hazardous because the water would rush down Upton and turn to black ice. It would freeze overnight. In the morning, I'd be sliding around, and I fell at least once. My dog didn't do too much better than I. In the evening, it would be treacherous because I couldn't see the ice. And I would, some nights my husband would say, don't go out, it's really bad. The only way I managed in the last few years was to buy something called yak tracks, which you affix. They're metal coils. You put them at the bottom of your shoes, and you can have a fighting chance of staying upright. It has been very difficult to walk, and every year it gets worse. I went to the 2 meetings that Pat talked about, and there were, I think, at least 20 people at those meetings. People who, like me, would like to see the stormwater addressed and the streets paved so that we can walk. We are encouraged. I'm not speaking for anybody but myself, but I can tell you that I am and my husband are encouraged that something might be done. We think the stormwater is a problem that needs to be addressed. The repaving is out of it's just very, very hard to get around whether you're walking or driving. So thank you, Pat, for helping us, and I really do hope that the problems can be addressed soon.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Drew. All right, before moving on to the resolution, can I borrow this real quick? I just have, and I'll send them to you offline. There are 2 additional statements from neighbors that need to be added into the record. One is from Neil Gross. Neil has some very legitimate concerns about things like speed bumps and one-way streets and things like that. As I've explained, the neighborhood will have a time to weigh in on the potential of that coming up at multiple parts in the process. And so I would just encourage everyone to be as vocal throughout this process as they've been to this point. And you guys will have something you're very happy with. And the second is from Karen Forright, and she urges the DDOT design team to provide ample opportunity for community input and discussion, preferably before and no case later than the 30% design stage. And that, again, that's reiterating the need for continued input from all of you. So I'll send those to you directly, and we can enter them as part of the record. But I'd like to make a motion to consider this resolution.
Second.
Second.
Not
All-
to consider it, to adopt it.
do we need to talk about it anymore amongst ourselves? Okay, I'm going to make a motion to adopt the resolution. Second. All right, I'm going to read the operative clause here. Therefore, be it resolved that ANC 3F requests that the District Department of Transportation, in consultation with the Department of Energy and Environment, complete the repaving of the heavily damaged portion of Linian Avenue Northwest from Tilden Street to Upton Street, which has already been added to DDOT's 2016 repair schedule as soon as possible. Develop a comprehensive plan for Linian Avenue Northwest from 4001 to 410 and from 420 to 2500 Upton Street Northwest, including capital improvements to improve stormwater management, prevent erosion along the roadway, and reconstruct the roadbed and pavement. Recognize that should this roadway improvement require installation of sidewalks, the neighborhood prefers that sidewalks be limited to one side of Linian. Develop a comprehensive plan for Linian Avenue Northwest from 4012 to 4018, Children Place Northwest, and Linian Avenue Northwest from 4201 to 4209, and the 4200 block of Lenore Lane Northwest. street paving and curb repair that does not require installation of sidewalks, or alternatively, that qualifies for a waiver from DDOT requirements regarding sidewalk installation within road reconstruction sites, excuse me. Study and, where appropriate, recommend additional infrastructure improvements, including low-impact development techniques to capture stormwater as close to the source as possible. Commit to a schedule for the completion of design, required budget, and construction, and report those dates to the community and ANC 3F. And finally, meet with members of the community and ANC 3F to explain designs and schedules, solicit comments, and finalize the design to incorporate neighborhood feedback. And be it further resolved that further deliberation on this issue will be referred to ANC 3F's new Streets and Sidewalks Committee. Be it further resolved that Commissioners Nugent and Jakovčić are authorized to speak on behalf of ANC 3F regarding this matter. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes unanimously. Congrats. Great. Thank you. Yeah, so do we have anything to discuss on Iona?
I don't think so. I
Okay.
think we should just move on.
All right, I'm going to make a motion to approve the Iona grant. Yeah. I'm going to make a motion to adopt a resolution in support of a grant to Iona Senior Services. Do I have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Adelstein. Let's see. Therefore, be it resolved that ANC 3F approves a grant of $325 to Iona Senior Services to support the production of a guide to food resources in Ward 3. And be it further resolved that Commissioners Nugent and Malad are authorized to speak before on behalf of ANC 3F regarding this matter. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? It passes unanimously. And I'm going to make a motion. We received a Merch Friends grant. Are you from Merch? Okay, I'm going to give you 2 minutes.
That's absolutely fine.
2 minutes, give us an introduction, and then what we're going to do is make a motion to refer this to our grants committee. You can work with them, and then we'll do something more detailed about it. But thanks for coming out and sticking through here.
I did 3 hours.
I very much appreciate you all adding it to the agenda at the last minute with the timing that worked out and us determining what we needed. But basically, this grant application from the Merch HSA came out of 2 developments. One being moving into swing space and the modernization of the school building, and the second being an effort to sort of revitalize the music program at Merch Elementary with the hiring of a new teacher and making it a real priority amongst the community and those sorts of things. So with those 2 things going on, one thing that has been determined as a serious need at the school is a better system of sound amplification. If you've ever been at a meeting at Merch, at an event at Merch, anything else, you can't hear a darn thing in the current multi-purpose room. As we move to the swing space, there'll be the music room, we'll also have the bubble, and possibly be using some other space at UDC if we can negotiate those things, whatever. And then when we move back into the new building, while there will be an auditorium with a system within the gym, with a built-in sound system and things like that, there will be other spaces within the school that could be used for meetings, could be used for smaller presentations, assemblies, all those sorts of things, but will not have sound built into them. So essentially, we have worked with the new music teacher to identify the types of things that they would need that would allow to be moved from different places for different purposes. One of the things, and I attached an article from actually the last school newsletter, newspaper of the year, student written, about the new music teacher and the things that they want to do. One of the things they want to do is to reach out performances both in school but also outside the school as well within the community. I know we've sent in the past, we've had students come into community centers and senior centers and things like that. We'd like to expand that even more. And one of the exciting things about being as Van Ness is we already are very connected to Forest Hills and Chevy Chase and Wakefield and Tinleytown and those sorts of areas, but moving up into Van Ness as well, really connecting with the entire ANC and looking for those opportunities, and that's what the new music teacher is looking for too. So it serves a lot of purposes for the school, but there's not really another identified funding source for it. So the HSA will be supporting the music program in various ways, but this seems like a great fit. So
Okay.
we thank you for your consideration.
We thank you for bringing it to us.
How much is it?
We wrote in for $3,000. The actual there is actually a
it's after 10 o'clock, I don't function. There's a quote actually from a company, and I think it was like $29.75. So we went ahead and put 3,000 in, just in case come the time we go to order, that quote changes slightly, just to cover it, but obviously we understand that if it weren't covered, that any money would be given back. We just didn't want to be.
Has your music teacher thought about instruments?
He has, and one of the things that, we already have a program, one of the first things he wants to start with is basic recorders, and then sort of survey what's already there and some other things. He has in the past been a music teacher at HD Cook, and has some sources where he's been able to find some donations for instruments and things, so we wanted a longer term to work with him on that, but he's very anxious to start band and other things. So those types of things I think are things we'll be looking for the HSA and other sources on, or potentially back here, or as we go through things. But this seemed like a good fit for now, and also timing wise and everything else with moving into the swing space. So
we'd love to get the kids to sing for some of the Van Ness Main Street events. So
and I already
who's
talked
the best?
to our night and to all that sort of thing to make sure that we all
You're
get
connected with Teresa. Okay.
So yes. So yes, and I think that'd be fabulous, and it's exactly the type of thing that both our art and music teacher want to be connected with. So
great.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, I am going to make.
Timing on that, or are we okay on the September timing on this grant?
The grant? Yeah.
Yeah, I know you proposed something else, but are we okay on the
Martha,
September?
when do you need this money by?
I mean, really, once it's in place, we get it. I know that normally it would be on your September schedule for a note, and we can work within that. So we've got to get moved into the space.
Okay.
That's what I was asking, versus having to do it in August.
Yeah, so our plan right now is to refer it to our grants subcommittee. They'll review it and work with you and liaise with the rest of our commissioners to make sure everything is in order. We might ask you to give a bit more of a detailed presentation in September than normally, just because of how quick we went tonight. And then we'll vote on it then, but so middle of September.
And we should be able to work within that too, because we'll still be figuring out which end is up in the new space and everything else. But hopefully, and if, if for some reason the needs arise or whatever, we can't make things work, we'll figure out. Because that's what we do.
And we should promise you that you'll be earlier. Even though you got this a little.
The one she printed out and scanned it? She printed one out and scanned it.
So, yes, it's good.
I didn't see
Thank you.
Yeah, it should all work now. Yeah. If not, I'll get it. So there is a copy of the grant on our website currently. I uploaded it this evening. Feel free to review it, all of you in the audience. I'm going to make a motion to move it to our grants committee to review in anticipation of a September vote.
Second.
Second from Commissioner Dickinson. All in favor? All opposed?
No. I was late.
Okay, all right. It passes. It is so moved. Okay. We're going to have two other things. It was unanimously.
Unanimous.
Yeah, to move it to refer to this subcommittee.
Yeah.
All right. We'll come back to these. Red Dot. Thank you for waiting.
Yeah, long way.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, so I'm gonna give you 5 minutes to talk to us about it right now, and then maybe 5 minutes of questions, and then we're gonna have to talk and decide what we're doing as a commission because this is coming up. So I'm gonna move to open debate and limit it to 10 minutes.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Dickinson. All
Unanimous, Pat.
unanimous. There's a reason. And
Do I need this?
yeah, if you want.
No, if you don't.
No, we're good.
You can drop that mic.
I think you can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, what I'm here for is to
Excuse
ask-
me, can I ask you to identify yourself?
I'm sorry. I'm Cora Rubenstein, and I am here to ask for your support in continuing to oppose the red top meters that are going to harm the disabled by reaffirming your 2015 resolution. Now, you made the
Yeah, we have the
You
resolution.
have the resolution.
We found the resolution.
Good, because we brought copies.
Okay.
Just in
We're
case.
back.
And I think that this is really important for those in Ward 3 because we have, you have a constituency that are getting older. We are going to be aging in place. And in this community, not here on Connecticut Avenue, but where I live, off of Davenport and Linian, we're far away from Metro, from the bus. It's uphill. There's no way we can get there. And so, as a result, we need to be able to drive. Now, when I get to wherever I'm going, I need to be able to park. Right now, this new resolution is saying that, let me backtrack in case some of you have forgotten. Right now, all the disabled can park at any meter for twice the time at the meter for free. That's important, especially the time issue, if you are disabled. I need, when I get downtown, to be able to probably walk to the doctor. To walk there in rain, in snow, in ice. And so I take it very, very slowly. During this time, I have to watch out for joggers, for bikers, and it becomes very difficult. There aren't even always garage where you can park. You might say, why not use Metro? Well, for those of you who read the article about the woman in the wheelchair who says that she's been taking Metro for years and will no longer do it, well, I have a problem in just, well, number one, getting to the Metro, 1.25 miles, navigating the Metro. Then when I get out, having to walk. Now, having to walk means for me, because of the way I walk, I have to watch out for irregular sidewalks, sleep, you're shaking, and yes, okay, so you understand that. There are also people who, where it's not as obvious. First of all, there are people who need it even more than I do. You see people in wheelchairs, walkers, etc. They need to be near where they're going. Then there are people who have heart problems or breathing problems, and they can't walk more than a block. And right now, what is being proposed is that the only place where we can get more than double the amount of time on the meter is at a red top meter. So if there is one on a block and that is taken, where am I supposed to park? We had somebody at one testifying at one of the hearings who said, if that only one is across the street, I can't cross the street in time. There's just not enough time on K Street for me to cross the street or other places. So there is just no doubt that the handicapped need double the time on the meter. And I have a lot more I want to say, but because of time, I just, it's hard for many people, it seems, to understand why 1 hour or 2 hours is not enough, and why Metro, even more now than it was last year.
I think we're on your side on this. So the resolution, and I think it's evident by the resolution we passed last year. I think we have some questions on what's happening right now. If you could explain it to me. Okay.
Tell you about why this is happening.
And I do just want to distill one thing for my colleagues who weren't on it. So the red tops, there was a pushback because they got put in places in other wards at a concentration that some people didn't find appropriate. There's a proposal to remove them because they think there's too many in certain parts of the city. That proposal, we felt last year was not specific enough in terms of what was going on, and would eliminate things without realizing, hey, a block that has a doctor's office and a pharmacy on it might need more spaces than one that does not. And so there's more info within there, but now it's changed to, perhaps I'll let you take it from there, a rulemaking process as opposed to a council bill. Okay.
I'm Larry Warner. I'm Cora's lesser 3/8. And sometimes not even that. The situation that has come about is that DDOT began red top meters and with questionable at best authorization in 2012. The matter was brought to the DC Council. There were 2 sets of hearings, and the council refused to approve red top meters. In 2014, DDOT, notwithstanding that, proceeded to install hundreds more, overwhelmingly in Ward 2, somewhat in Ward 6, virtually none anywhere else. They were installed at random. They simply were dumped into the ground. In 2015, DDOT went back to the DC Council, went to the Transportation Committee, and could not get approval even out of committee, let alone to the council. I and a number of other people went down and testified. I've sent you 14 pages of formal testimony basically saying, hey, here are some reasons why this is a really bad idea, including 6 pages of alternatives to the fraud that DDOT alleges is occurring. And I have no doubt that some people misuse the term, absolutely not. But DDOT has made no attempt at any time, ever, to even attempt to address the fraud. And it's as simple as, if you think there are, I've forgotten the exact numbers, 31 spaces on L'Enfant Plaza Drive, and 26 of them are occupied by handicapped placards that you believe are being misused, I could take a legal pad, walk down twice a day, and figure out within a week which one of these things was being abused. There are enforcement issues, apparently not just for handicap parking, but for all parking in the city. Apparently, DPW, Department of Public Works, which enforces the meters, cannot transfer the data from the morning shift to the evening shift. And I had after I heard this at the Mayor June hearing, I went up to, I think it was Mr. Reed, who was the retiring director, and said, I don't understand this. There's a cloud. How can you not transfer it? He said, we have to use cell phones, and it isn't in our budget to pay for it. He said, well, this doesn't make a lot of sense. Why don't you just go to Starbucks and Pete's, and if you need to, the banks, and ask to piggyback on their Wi-Fi? Would you like some help? And I'm involved in a company that would be in a position to help. I don't know whether they would, but if the city needed it. 3 attempts to contact them, no response. So now we have moved forward, another year has gone by, and at 4:09 p.m. on June 24th, DDOT announces a rulemaking. The rulemaking now says 4% of the meters will be reserved for handicap. They will be ADA compliant, and it's unclear how many of the red tops are ADA compliant. Somebody may know, I don't. The other 96% of the city's meters, which are now 100% extended time accessible, will lose that. Those who are disabled will have the choice of, if you can't park in 2 hours, you can risk a ticket, or you can pay for a commercial garage. And of course, because the city has, unlike many cities, has no municipal parking, and it has no regulation, unlike, say, San Francisco, for parking garages, that means that a 2-hour and 10-minute stay is probably a $13 or $15 charge. The outcome of this, if one assumes that the disabled will take 50% longer to move and to get it, and maybe even more than that, because if there's only 1 meter and it's not every block anymore, it's now one in every quadrant of the street, is what 4% comes out to. The disabled will end up paying 50 or 100% more than a non-disabled person. And all of this is buried in the DDOT rulemaking, which purports to be this wonderful thing, we're going to help the handicapped and the disabled. It simply doesn't even mention any of what I'm talking about. And it's a backdoor. It's a 30-day clock in the summer. No time for anybody to come up and say, hey, look, can we talk to you about this, etc. And the backdoor part of it is even worse than that, because DDOT, no public witness ever has testified in favor of this proposal. And as in 2015, DDOT again will not notify disability placard holders until after its rulemaking goes into effect. I think it's wrong morally. I think it's certainly wrong for our family. I think it's wrong for a lot of people. And while we may be able to afford to pay for it, there are an awful lot of people in this city who can't. We can do better. We should do better. One final thing. The rules of the city say that government agencies are to give great weight to ANC resolutions. DDOT has given not great weight, but no weight to the resolutions of ANC 3F and 34G in 2015. And hopefully, if you would be kind enough to pass a resolution, now it can be as simple as we re-endorse our position in opposition.
So let's talk about it a little bit. So we came out in opposition to Bill 21-175. I have not had a chance to read into the rulemaking offered by DDOT, and my colleagues haven't either, because partially because of what you pointed out in terms of when it was unveiled and things. Could you give us is the rulemaking that's proposed? I know the 4% is a little bit different because I think there's 10% in.
The rulemaking is substantially Bill 21-175 with a few modifications. And Mr. Matthews, would you like to add anything to what I've said about?
No, not at all. And,
okay.
Except for, very quickly, Mr. Warner and I did meet separately about this, which I really appreciate. And it's still open for public comment. So as far as what I'm able to say about it, I'm not really able to speak to it at great length until the 23rd of this Friday. Public comment stops. So I'm here to listen, and I do appreciate the meeting.
My reading of it is that it is substantially Bill 21-175, except it's going from 10% to 4%. It is technically written as it will start in the central business district, but it gives the director of DDOT absolute, unchallenged, unchallengeable authority to expand it throughout the city at, in this case, his convenience.
Now, that 4% is worse than the 10%,
Yes.
correct? Okay.
Yes, and it's when one actually sits down, and I have sat down with a couple of people with DDOT and tried to figure out what this means. You take a square block and you count the number of eligible parking spaces. That means that 4%. On every square block, there will be at most one red car meter.
Okay.
So if you think about, just to use the example, K Street, where all the medical communities are, there's going to be 1 meter. This is just, it's not feasible, and it's the result of we don't want to talk, we don't have to talk, we can go to a rulemaking. It's wrong morally, it's wrong process-wise.
So we basically want to extend the comment period, right?
In order, the problem.
Extend the comment period.
Well, I have asked, and
When he left.
Mrs. Deported, I did ask Mr., that was one of the first things. I tried to approach this on the basis of Mayor Bowser opposed this in 2012, when she was a council member. She led the opposition. In 2015, silence, and now it's her DDoT that is again. I said, this is silly. I know this mayor, I supported her. This is not the Mayor Bowser, Muriel Bowser. that I did. So I reached out to Mike Matthews, and I made the silly mistake of responding to the email address that they used to contact people on the website. It took me several days to realize I wasn't getting a response.
Sure.
And we did sit down, we had a lovely conversation, the gist of which was 3 business days later, I need to get an answer from you. Well, we have submitted your papers to DDOT. So, and public comment is you can send an email to something like publicspace.dc with no confidence, A, that anybody even will read it, let alone B, given the history, listen to it. So extending the comment period would be a nice start, but it's not viable. It has to be opposed, it really needs to be stopped. And recognizing the time limit, again, the simplest thing would be a very simple 1 or 2 sentence resolution.
Okay. You guys have additional questions?
What happened to 21-175? Was it withdrawn? It died.
Why? Do you know why?
So that's essentially what we
Didn't have support.
recommended,
Okay,
right?
there's no record.
That was our resolution, basically, to kill it, and it died.
But it's, the content of the bill now has reemerged
They've gone
as
a
a
different route
rulemaking.
to get it done.
So what the
Same thing that the bill
DDOT
said.
could not
Yeah, I
get through the
understand.
council, it's trying to get through the back door of the rulemaking.
So our resolution now is that DDOT kill that rulemaking?
Well, we don't. We need
Or
to.
have
We need
more
to talk
time.
about what we're going to do. Like, we don't have a resolution prepared, so I mean, this is a bit irregular. I know we're trying to avoid this, but why don't we? I mean, it is a resolution. The bill died because it didn't have support. The policy seems to be substantially the same to the bill's policy that we opposed. Comment period is open for it, and we need to decide how we want to respond to it, if we do want to respond to it.
The comment period closes in like, what?
On Friday.
3 days,
Friday.
yeah.
Yeah.
July 23rd.
Add 60 days to the comment period. I mean, that gets us past August, when a lot of people are away. So what is this, July
I'm sorry, when does the
19th?
comment period close this
August
Friday?
Friday.
July 23rd.
Yeah, so I'm wondering, putting aside that Bill 21-175 has come and gone, there's some general intent and spirit of our resolution and points that we could apply anywhere, anytime, including in this current rulemaking process. So I would suggest that we look to the degree that we want to do a resolution. I'm not sure we do or not, but if we did, we could just rely more on some general principles of disability access, and without getting into numbers and percentages and costs, but just putting enough teeth into the comment that they've got to reply and that we're afforded great weight, but lay out some general principles and ask that any final regulation demonstrate that in certain business districts, doctor districts, that adequate access will be provided based on the demographics of our city, something of that nature. I don't know if we have the time to really craft that, or if there are paragraphs out of this existing resolution we can lift.
So I sent around some potential text for a letter, not a resolution, because it's a comment period. I mean, we could move to write a letter basically saying, this rulemaking, or proposed rulemaking, looks a lot like this bill that we opposed last time. We continue to oppose it. There were some parts of this bill that they never even respond to. We asked for like a year report on, the fraud issue, and we never got that as well. But at this point, I think what I would be comfortable saying is submitting a letter as part of the comment period, saying, to us, this appears to be very similar to Bill 2175, which we had substantial problems with it. The best way to address those problems isn't by changing the vehicle from a bill to a rulemaking process. We request additional time to study this rulemaking process and understand if we still, oppose it. But unless that gets extended, we maintain.
And
our
even call
opposition
out
to the
that
policy.
they've exacerbated it by dropping it from 10% now to 4%.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind highlighting that. I mean, I don't know if we won't be getting a 40, great weight in a letter versus a resolution, but I support what you're.
We do have time to work through.
Yeah, we might be here for a little bit. Well,
I think that makes a lot of sense. We would basically say, like, we would like to have more time. Absent that time, we oppose the school on that, because on the same ground, we are coverage, and the school is substantially similar.
What about your time? What about mine? Yeah.
Like pea-sized ham.
I mean, I guess I don't mind a letter, but I'm also not opposed to a resolution that is focused solely on the timing issue. I mean, I think if we put the concerns that, we've discussed before and that David just articulated in the letter, like you suggest, but then also have a resolution that requests an extension of time for the rulemaking. So the rulemaking doesn't happen for 60 days or 90 days or whatever.
Okay.
Just so people are back from their holidays. And,
We should do that.
there's a
We
fair
request
process.
an additional 60 days or something.
Okay. So, shall we start crafting a resolution?
Maybe not.
Yeah. That's good.
It's very explosive issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's getting late. I mean, if you guys have the stomach for it, let's do this quickly and figure out, language. I don't think we need all these whereas clauses.
No.
I think it can simply be whereas ANC, let me type this down. Can you?
I like the first whereas. I can write it.
Okay.
Okay.
Whereas
You
ANC
got it?
3F.
Just give me 1
I
second.
think the first one's a good place to start. It's a very broad statement of support.
Okay.
So basically, we would keep the first whereas.
Okay.
And then say something about the rule itself.
Well, I think if the resolution just addresses the timing, and then all the, kind of broad support for the initiatives goes in a letter.
So do a letter
And
and
then
a
that-
resolution?
Yeah, and then I think that simplifies things. We've already done a resolution. I don't really think we need to put all this stuff in the resolution.
I wonder if our I mean, maybe you submit a cover letter or a letter to the rulemaking and a resolution that's a paragraph or two and just references this old resolution.
Right.
Let them figure that out. But then the two paragraphs of the resolution, I'm making this up on the flyer. One, this introductory paragraph or two from the other resolution, and we request an additional 60 days for additional comment and opportunity for all the ANCs in the city to evaluate this and something like that.
Okay.
I know. So either
It's gotta be 60 days.
60 or 60 seems right from a rulemaking because they already gave you 60. I don't know.
Well, they gave us 30 originally.
So what will we include in the resolution, that first whereas from the original one?
We could do something like, so the first whereas basically says, whereas we care about issues affecting the disabled essentially, and whereas DDOT has proposed a rule that would limit the number of red top meters, and whereas ANC 3F, like other ANCs, has limited meetings during the summer or something like that, therefore be it resolved that we request an extension of 60 days?
I'd like to throw in another whereas ANC 3F previously passed a resolution opposing a reduction.
And see attachment
So
or something.
we'd start with this.
Right.
And then we would say something like, whereas DDOT has proposed a rule that would limit the number of red top meters.
Right.
And whereas ANC 3F,
You previously passed a resolution opposing
Bill 21-175, which was substantially similar to the proposed rule.
Okay, hang on. Proposing Bill 21-175, that is substantially similar to proposed rule.
And then something about the frequency of meetings, right? Like
Whereas multiple ANCs and
I mean, I
department
think it's
agencies.
just,
You think it's too much?
it's
or-
an undue,
Right.
it's an undue burden on the community to respond within 30 days,
Yeah.
particularly in light of the timing during the summer.
Yeah.
Adequate notice and opportunity to comment.
We're-
So then the
yeah.
second, whereas DDOT has proposed a rule that would limit the number of red top meters and the public comment period is scheduled to end on,
Oh, yeah. With a public
Okay.
comment
Right.
period scheduled to end on
We
July.
resolve that
July-
proper
Friday.
notice and adequate
Friday's
23.
opportunity for comment.
23rd.
Okay.
Right there,
Yeah.
and then add what they just said.
Sure. Okay.
And say extended
okay?
time.
So then just be it resolved.
No.
No, we need
a
a
couple more
whereas
things.
about the timing, that it's inadequate timing.
Whereas a 30-day timing period in the summer when agencies and ANCs aren't regularly meeting represents an undue burden on.
Well, it represents an inadequate notice and opportunity to comment.
Mhm.
Many ANCs are not meeting this month or next month.
Right.
That's
So let's say
the
during the
problem.
summer when many ANCs are not meeting.
Yeah, that's exactly it. When it gets done.
Uh,
Definitely
provides
July.
inadequate opportunity for the public to weigh in.
Yeah, inadequate opportunity for public comment.
Then we could
For the
say,
public to be heard?
Sure.
Therefore be it resolved that,
I think we need one more whereas, and we said, whereas ANC 3F is concerned that many of the same issues that affected Bill 21-175 remain unresolved by the proposed rulemaking.
maybe here after
Sure.
this one.
Yeah.
And then we say, be it resolved that they extend it.
One more time, Pat,
And-
where is what? ANC 3F what?
Whereas ANC 3F believes the same issues that affected Bill 21-175 remain unresolved by the proposed rulemaking
Believes that the same issues that what?
that affected Bill 21-175.
The issues that affected?
We
I
did,
mean,
we
that
did
arose-
say
that
that
arose
we
or-
previously passed a resolution opposing Bill 21-175 that is substantially similar to the proposed rule.
Okay, ANC 3F believes that the same issues that affected Bill 21-175 have still not been resolved?
Yes, by the proposed rulemaking for red top meters. Now therefore,
3E had that very long resolution.
now therefore be it resolved that ANC 3F requests a 60-day extension of the comment period for the proposed rulemaking
They recently did it.
affecting red top meters.
Do we want to say that in the absence of such an extension, we oppose the rule as
Be
written?
it further resolved without such an
Okay,
abstention.
hang on. ANC 3F requests a 60-day extension for the comment period for the proposed rulemaking.
Can you read the one
I'll fix it.
from the other ANC?
And then a further resolve
Long and involved.
that absent such an extension, ANC 3F opposes the proposed rule as written.
I'll fix this one. Okay, you want to hear it back?
Yes.
Yeah.
Whereas, the first one from the June resolution, I'll copy it in. Whereas DDOT has proposed a rule that would limit the number of red top meters with a public comment period scheduled to end on July 23rd, whereas 2016. Whereas ANC 3F previously passed a resolution opposing Bill 21-175 that is substantially similar to the proposed rule. Whereas ANC 3F believes that the same issues that affected Bill 21-175 have still not been resolved by the proposed rulemaking for red top meters. Whereas a 30-day time for public comment, in particular during the summertime when many ANCs are not meeting, provides inadequate opportunity for the public to be heard. Therefore, be it resolved that ANC 3F requests a 60-day extension for the public comment period for the proposed rulemaking. Be it further resolved that absent such an extension, ANC 3F opposes the proposed rule as written.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
All right.
And then we'll attach
The previous
the
resolution.
previous.
Yeah.
And I think that serves as the letter too. I
Then
mean, that's
that
all we
should
need. Yeah.
cover it. Yeah.
Okay.
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 Call the question.
Motion to approve that resolution as written.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Allison. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Passes unanimously.
Hey, thanks so much for.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Staying around.
Late.
You guys have a safe passage home
Okay.
tonight?
I hope so.
Okay.
Two quick motions at the end. One is a motion to spend $1,200 to renew the ANC through advertisement in the Forest Hills connection for the 12-month period from August 1st, 2016 through July 31st, 2017. Do I have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Ray. Do we need to discuss this? I think we've done. Okay.
Let's just talk about how we're going to, I'll get you the check in time.
Okay. All in favor? All opposed? All right.
And we're gonna update our look.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can help with the design of that. And now I have a motion to authorize an expenditure to resign the accessory parking lots behind 4418 and 4422 Connecticut Avenue. Can we discuss this?
What is this?
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm gonna.
that's the, Malky had the meeting, and he wants to hire an engineering firm like VICA or someone like that to be able to come up with a plan for that back area.
I mean, why are we paying for that? Why can't the?
$1,000
reconsider this
seems
in
low
September.
All right.
to me for what they would charge for that.
I'm going to pull that motion, and we're going to table it till September, and we'll discuss it in greater detail.
I do think we have some people possibly in the area, in our ANC, that would be willing to, if we got the right drawings, for people to give us information.
Yeah, I just don't know enough about it right now, and that's a cost. I don't know if there was a reason why Malky was interested in getting this done so quickly.
We're trying to solve the problem
now.
of zips, because DDOT is connected, but some parking spaces should be perpendicular. Versus at the angle, there's many things that are going in that meeting. Lisa isn't here anymore, but she's at the meeting too.
Yeah.
But I think he's trying to find a way to appeal to the community of the problem.
Their litigation.
I don't know why we need this money right now.
I mean, it's an ongoing.
Okay.
So we're gonna wait on that?
I don't know when.
Unless there's
you all know
considerable
when the
support for this.
zoning hearing was, the placard's up at the parking lot for the zips. There's a big placard up there.
I'm just concerned that it's not gonna be
Enough.
enough. I
Number
mean,
one.
looking at what happened with the contract we're dealing with now, they went over, and I thought that was a very substantial sum for what they were doing. So I have some concerns about that.
Well, and I think we ought to talk to the commercial property owners and see if they would pay for it. Or match the funds or something. I mean, that's ridiculous. That place is a money machine.
Okay. We're going to table that until September.
Yeah, okay.
Unless there's further business, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
It's
I
still,
oppose.
it's still.
I'm sure there's something we can.
All in favor?
Aye.
10:55.
More people should come to see. He's so.
Thank you.
Thank you. 11 o'clock.
There are hundreds watching online, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Hi, David.
Thank you.
He watches us when he's not here.
Yeah.
I know, Dave says